¿Qué pasa, mi gente? You're watching the Pueblo virtual telethon celebrating 25 years of love and sofrito. My name is George Torres, and me voy a aparecer en cámara ya mismo. I promise you. Hey, what's going on, mi gente? I am here. I want to introduce my business partner, my creative partner, Juan Papo Sugiri Santiago. What's up, Papo?
Mi gente, how you feeling today? What's up, George?
You got that banner in the back. I got the shirt on.
Oh, snap. Estamos machi machi.
Estamos activados. Um, Papo, before we get started, because I do understand that a lot of people who have never heard of us, who've never experienced what we've done, they're going to have questions. They're going to want to know who we are. I'm going to start with the fact that my name is George Torres. I am the founder of sofritoforyoursoul.com and a couple of other cultural properties, one of them being Capicu Culture, which is a poetry collective. And Papo's going to talk more about that in a second. But one of the things that we want to let you know is that this event is being broadcast across multiple platforms. We have multiple pages on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch for the first time ever, and a couple of different Twitter accounts. So we're here. What we're gonna ask is we're gonna ask the audience to please share this link, whatever platform you're watching. Share the link so that people can jump on. We need El Pueblo completo at this time. I see people jumping in already, but Papo, let's talk a little bit about the concept of Pal Pueblo. Let's start there.
Pal Pueblo itself. So, Pal Pueblo, what happened was when we first started Capicu, we started Capicu in March 2007 at this point. And Capicu was actually a community led project. It was a counter gentrification project because at the time, that part of Bushwick, Williamsburg, and Brooklyn was just getting. There was a wave of it getting taken over by developers that, from my understanding at the time, had already done work in Coney Island, and they were coming up to that side of town. And so they reached out to us to put together a cultural showcase because the part of the idea was that if the Boricuas were activado, right, like we say, right, those of us that were in Bushwick and Williamsburg, actually all across Brooklyn, because we're from East New York, right? But if we brought that cultural element into Bushwick, or not brought it in because it was already there, but if we kind of like flourished it, right, we grew it, that people would be less likely to give up their businesses, give up their homes, and things of that nature. And it actually, I mean, we kept a significant amount of folks in Brooklyn and activated and connected because part of it was community building within Brooklyn. But gentrification is gentrification, right? But what ended up happening is a year in, right around Christmas, we started thinking, you know what, we want to find a way to give back to the community and give back to the community in a very real way. So we connected with our bar owner, the person that gave us the venue, which was Jason Tennant, and we asked him for ideas, and he connected us to an organizer in the community named Jessica Arocho, who we know as FIFA. And FIFA was working at the Bushwick United Head Start schools. And what we did, crazy idea that we had from the very beginning, was that we was going to raise funds and collect toys for the 5 Bushwick United schools, which is about 100 kids each in each school, so about 500 kids in Brooklyn. We were going to bring toys for, and so artists would come out. They would come out and free. They would donate their time and their talent in order to contribute to the Pal Pueblo event and the Pal Pueblo series now. And we garnered all of that. All of those schools got toys for those children and gifts. And sometimes they were not just toys. Sometimes they were hygiene products. Sometimes there were other things that were necessary
Not
that the
traditional.
parents asked for and the teachers asked for. And what was very interesting about it is that at the time, where a lot of those kids, the gifts or the things that we gave them was the only thing they got in that season. And that's why Pal Pueblo, it was a really big impact on us. George used to actually dress like Santa Claus, Jibaro Claus, right? He was
Really?
Hibaro Claus, and I was Swiggity Elf. I would actually dress in the elf suit, and FIFA would dress like Mrs. Claus, right? And we would bring elves. Like people would come and start joining us to give out the toys at the schools. It was amazing. And then we ended up um, because over time, we're talking now 14 years, 15 years, right? Over time, the demographic of the neighborhood changed, and we had to think about what else to do with Pal Pueblo. So we started doing other projects with Pal Pueblo. I know last year we benefited the hospital, Woodhull Hospital, and because FIFA is actually working at Woodhull Hospital as director of community affairs there, so it was a natural tie-in. And this year we thought Pal Pueblo, if we're really going to do Pal Pueblo, we have to do it for our people that are hurting right now in Puerto Rico, in the Dominican Republic, all across the Caribbean. So that's our little story of Pal Pueblo.
Yes, absolutely. And Pal Pueblo extended, right? Extended to the Puerto Rican Day Parade. It extended into environmental justice work. One of the things that we did at the Puerto Rican Day Parade, which you're about to see, is we used that platform as a protest platform. We were the first and only folks to ever paint live murals walking down, like, driving down Fifth Avenue. And we benefited some of the organizations that are here today, like Caño Martín Peña, just to name that one. And I think Taller Salud at one point. So we've worked on this kind of work. We do have a dear family member at Capicu that has since passed away, and she was the driving force behind that particular thing. So everything you see in the video that you're about to see is pretty much the work of a woman named Kim Andino, who Kim Possible, as we call her. Papa, you want to say anything about Kim before we show the video?
I lost the mute button. Kim was amazing. I knew Kim over 20 years. We were friends in the clubbing world when we were young, and she's one of the only people that came with me into the cultural world when we started growing this. And we started, with these projects that had to do with orphans in the Dominican Republic. So we started with the Casa Ana orphanage, where we went up to what was it, La Pregunta Arts Cafe,
The Pregunta Arts
in
Cafe.
yeah,
Yep.
in Washington Heights, and we collaborated with artists. And Kim was a community builder as well. So what she did was she bridged the poets, right? So us with the visual artists, and she did it around the city. And she was just a dynamo and a force. And we miss her so much. I miss you, Kim, and I love you.
Absolutely. So we're gonna give you this video. The context of this video was, this is the video. This is the year right after Hurricane Maria. We partnered with a couple of different organizations, but the two that I want to highlight is Why Not Care and NIDIS, right? The New York Interfaith Disaster Services, if I'm not mistaken, and our good friend Laila Mejia, who just got a proclamation the other day for her community work. She's always super active in the community. So this video is basically telling the story of what happened in Maria, which is not straight, it's not foreign to us because we're living it again. So here's the video, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
My name is George Torres, and I love Latino culture. I hated the fact that our history wasn't documented in the books, so I created Sofrito for Your Soul and co-founded Capicu Culture. Every year, the Capicu Culture Sofrito for Your Soul float is dedicated to a different environmental disaster. Maria actually changed the game. So today we're here with Why Not Cares and NYDIS to actually honor them for the work that they're doing for displaced families in Puerto Rico. And we brought a whole coalition of community builders with us to make a statement this year. Nosotros estamos aquí.
The reality is that there's still a lot of struggle. And there's still a lot of people suffering because they don't have water, they don't have food, or they have very little every 2 or 3 days. I mean, we need to be humane and unite and create conscience so that we can help our people. These are human beings. These are American citizens. This is not just anybody. It's not trash. My country, Puerto Rico, has done a lot for the United States, and I think we deserve a little bit of respect.
My name is Juan Pablo Santiago. I'm the co-founder of Capicu Culture and also La Sopa NYC, the School of Poetic Arts. We just finished the 61st annual Puerto Rican Day Parade, our participation in the parade. We always bring a protest element or an element of critical thinking to the parade. And the idea is how the arts, how we as artists can actually support people that are community organizers. And so we have partnered together with many different organizations that are actually doing work on the island and asking them how we can participate and how our messages can get across to our community about the work that's happening in New York City, about what's happening in La Isla.
There's so many organizations out there that are doing amazing things, tent ministries. So what we did was we just called everybody like, hey, what are you guys doing? How can we help? What are you doing? How can we help? And those organizations called other organizations, and we all formed up together. Because one person could get up to the mountain, but if we have a whole group going together, we get a lot more done. Instead of 1 gallon, we could get 50 gallons. You know, instead of 1 sandwich, we get 100 sandwiches.
We put 2 programs in place. One was to help evacuee families that are arriving here, which we've been doing in partnership with a group of organizations. As families arrive, interviewing them, finding out what their unmet needs are, helping them secure housing, jobs, when possible, with financial assistance.
In the house, the water went through. It was like 3 or 4 inches of water in the house. We didn't sleep for 48 hours because it was something that I thought it wasn't gonna stop. There was like no end for us.
When you want to drink water, it's something as easy, you know, as simple as drinking water, and there's no water available to drink. I used to go out and find no water to buy at the supermarket, nowhere. So we decided to take water from one of the municipalities' trucks, and my daughter and I got sick.
Uh, 4,645 people died. They said it was a couple, you know, make it seem like it's nothing. Right now, they're drinking contaminated water. A lot of people aren't surviving. You know, I think this piece right here is going to represent what a lot of cultures go through. And I mean, we want them to know that we're here. We want to make a difference. We want the children to make a difference. We want everybody to get on board. You know, unity is a strong thing.
4,645. We are here every year at the Puerto Rican Day Parade highlighting the will of the people, the marginalized struggle, and we put words and artistic expression to that. So this year what we're doing with the Puerto Rican Long-Term Recovery Group, marching with our contingent, is that we are speaking out for the 4,645 people that lost their lives.
I think the biggest thing is, a lot of, money has been going to the island, which needs it as well. Right. But a lot of people are just forgetting the fact that evacuees are here. There's 17,000 that have come to New York State alone, and they're not getting the assistance we need. So we need to keep the conversation going. We need social media, repost, talk about it, donate to grassroots organizations that are actually doing the work and not these organizations that we know that don't take the money and use it. Go to on the basic level, people on the ground who are doing the work. And it's those people who are not being acknowledged, who are doing more work than these bigger agencies that claim to do work and they're not doing the work.
My name is George Torres, and I love Latino culture. I hated the fact that our history wasn't documented in the books, so I created Sofrito for Your Soul.
Of course, whatever can happen wrong will happen. It's on loop. It's my fault. So yeah, man, that's a very deep piece because it brings everything right back to the forefront, right? So again, big shout out to Lila Mejia, Peter, Gu, Peter G. I'll say Peter G. And the whole Capicu team, Albert Arizaga, Johnny Rose, Rich VR. I think what was it? Nelson Santiago was the artist on one of those pieces, and there was a whole other collective of artists that also apported their help to that. So it's
That,
it's
yeah,
we're,
that was Art Culture NYC. So shout out to them. Yeah.
shout out to them. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna shift gears a little bit. We're gonna start talking about some of the organizations that we're going to be benefiting tonight. I do want to do a little housekeeping. We are going to be going through a pretty long list of groups tonight. We're going to probably go through about 20 groups tonight. And the most important thing for people to realize, if you haven't seen any of the ads for this program tonight, is that we instituted a system where we have barcodes, and those barcodes go directly to the organization's website and their donation page. So we're not collecting any money. Unfortunately, that also means that we're not going to have a ticker on the top to show how much we've raised. As of right now, we'll connect with the organizations later and try to quantify that. But this is an emergency. This is lo que está pasando ahora una emergencia, and it's super important that we take the time to talk about these organizations. These are organizations that are trusted. They're vetted from the community. The original list that we started working with was a list by a group called La Corilla. So big shout out to La Corilla for putting the initial list that we started working with. And we also expanded, right? We already know that tonight Florida is underwater. We know Cuba is underwater, and our primos right over the El Charco, like we say, in Dominican Republic, got hit right after we did. So we'll be talking a little bit about DR relief efforts tonight as well. I also want to give a big shout out to Jamani D. Williams, our public advocate here in New York. They're assisting us with communications assets and just helping us get the word out to as many people as possible. So big shout out to them. So I'm going to invite in a woman who works for an organization called Paz para las Mujeres. And let me see here. It's a feminist NGO and coalition that is also helping domestic violence shelters. So let me bring Maria Munoz in as our first guest. Maria, ¿cómo estás?
Hola, buenas noches. Gracias a los dos por tenernos acá, nosotras,
No, seguro.
desde Puerto Rico.
So one thing before we get started, I just want to let people know that this event is very language fluid. We're going to be talking a little bit of Spanglish throughout the event. If there's anything critical, we'll translate. We'll try to do our best to translate some of it for you. But this is Boricuas in the diaspora, right? So welcome, Maria.
Gracias, gracias.
So tell us a little bit. Let's start with the organization. Tell us a little bit about the history of Paz para la Mujer.
Paz para la Mujer is a feminist organization. We are actually a coalition. We are made of over 30 organizations and 14 individual feminist members. It's made up of emergency shelters, direct services organizations, university and government programs, feminist and human rights activists who offer services and support for survivors of gender-based violence in this type of emergency. We work as a group that helps the organizations and canalizes the help that we receive to those organizations before the emergency, during and after the emergency. So that's its part, that the particular work we are doing this past few weeks. But knowing that we live in the Caribbean and knowing the history of of the effect that this type of hurricanes or storms have in Puerto Rico, we were preparing during the year with equipment and food and other necessities, basic necessities for those organizations for them to be ready.
So how much of Hurricane Maria influenced how you built the long-term plan for Paz para la Mujer?
It changed everything because Hurricane Maria, as we all know, was like a wake-up call for everyone in the island. And since that, working to prevent that the necessities gets up and up, well, we every year the organization prepares for that. We can't forget about the earthquakes on 2020 too, that were very catastrophic on the south of the island. So we take the matter of preparation very seriously, so that when the emergency hits, we are a little bit prepared. It's not perfect, but it's something, so that the people can react and can help with the organizations, their communities, and the people they serve. And then during the emergency, well, the work doesn't stop.
So one of the things that's happening right now, one thing that's happening differently from Hurricane Maria is the fact that we are the diaspora and the people on the island are focused more on individual organizations that don't get major funding, that don't have the $1 million grants, but are doing a very big portion of the heavy lifting on the island, which your organization absolutely does. Um, Tell us a little bit about where the money goes specifically. Like, how are you raising money? What kind of resources can you use? So if somebody out there is listening and that they work for an organization that could possibly like contribute in a meaningful way, like what are some of the things that the organization needs?
Well, we have an emergency fund. I hear a little bit of feedback. Sorry. We have an emergency fund that is actually where the people can donate their money, and our respond, it goes by supporting the members and allied organizations inside the coalition through that emergency fund. And as I said, before the emergency, we work to prepare the organizations with response equipment for emergency funds. And now we continue to support them with the purchase of generators, water, basic necessities, economic support. Obviously, we are focused too on providing support for gender-based violence survivors and sexual assault survivors and the organizations that work with them. So that is why Coordinadora Paz para las Mujeres does a different focus on this type of emergency, because we have how can I say this? We have a demographic that it's often forgotten in this type of situations. So we are there also for the communities and everyone there, but we have a focus on those survivors.
Absolutely. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put up the barcode, and this is the barcode for Coordinadora Paz para las Mujeres. For those folks who are watching right now, if you're watching on a laptop, you could just basically either screenshot this or put your phone up to the screen and actually scan it. You'll see more about the information. You'll hear more, you'll get to learn more about the organization, more that was discussed here, some of the projects that they have. But most importantly, this is where you would come to donate directly to the organization. Like I said,
something nice for that we have on our webpage is that when the people logs in, they are going to see the information in Spanish, and that is great for Spanish speaking people. But for those of you that doesn't understand Spanish very well and are more comfortable with English or any other language, we have a language accessibility tool at the top of the webpage that translates everything on the language that you want or you feel more comfortable reading the stuff there. And we have a lot of information about the cycles of gender violence and sexual assault. So I know we're talking here about the donations, and that is very important, but our webpage is a very good tool with materials about these topics and how you can help if you know someone that is going through one of these cycles.
Last question. Are there volunteer opportunities for people who want to come to the island and help you with projects? There are. Okay, great.
There are.
Maria, thank you so much. What you're doing is God's work. We really appreciate it, especially because we know that the climate in Puerto Rico for women has not been the safest. traditionally. So hopefully your organization, or I know that your organization is actually making a dent in that space. So we want to thank you for coming here tonight. We will have at the end of the program, we will have a recap of some of the organizations that were here tonight. So you'll be able to once again grab that screenshot if you haven't. I'm going to put it up one more time for a couple of seconds. This is Coordinadora Paz para las Mujeres.
We are activating our Caravana Violeta in this next few weeks. So we are getting the help that we want, that we were, or that we are able to collect. We are starting that Caravana Violeta in the next few weeks. And we are going to need volunteers for that, and we are going to need some donations for that, for our emergency fund to impact those communities on the island. So
Absolutely.
everything is appreciated.
I want you to know that the website sofritoforyoursoul.com is open and accessible to anybody that's on this program tonight. So if you want to send us a press release, if you want to send any announcement, any events, we absolutely will publish it for you.
Thank you.
As a partner. Okay. Pablo, you had something?
Yeah, Maria, I have a question for you, right? So in terms of the hurricanes, or the various things that can happen in Puerto Rico, right? Do you find that gender-based violence, instances of violence, are on the rise during those moments, during the hurricane, I think I need to say, I wanted to point that out because I need people to understand why your organization is important, right? Because I know that I work in El Barrio, and I know that when times are tough, gender-based violence is on the rise, and I would imagine it would be the same way, or even worse, when you're in a place where everything is kind of like uprooted, right? So your work is very important, and I appreciate what you do.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for being interested in our work and the work of other organizations that you are helping tonight with the telethon. A few of the organizations that you later are going to share their QR codes and information are part of our coalition, like Taller Salud and Casa Julia. Others are allies of our work. So thank you, because you are impacting a very important population of Puerto Rico.
Appreciate you. Have a good night. So there you have it, mi gente. We're gonna transition into the next segment. We did promise that this program would be just more than just asking for money, that we were gonna educate and we were gonna talk about some of the underlying conditions that lead to the disaster, right? Something I saw the other day was very interesting. Puerto Rico got hit with Hurricane Fiona as a Category 1, right? And Dominican Republic got hit with Fiona right after as a Category 2. Yet Dominican Republic only lost 7% of the power, and Puerto Rico lost 100%. So that goes to show you there's a lot of differences in geographic locations in the Caribbean and how their governments respond. So we're going to talk more about that later on. I have somebody from the Dominican Republic that's going to check in with us and give us some feedback about that. They're going to give us some organizations that are serving the underserved in the island. But first, we're going to go. Actually, Papa, I'm going to let you introduce the next guest. And I'm also going to jump to the background for this interview so that I could take care of some housekeeping. All right? Thank you.
Yes. So our next guest is actually Dr. Melinda Gonzalez. And we know her in the poetry community as La Poeta Guerrera. So I keep losing these buttons. Hello, Dr. Melinda Gonzalez, PhD. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Bubble?
I am good. Wow, your camera is clear. Oh, you've been
it's
doing
like
this.
it's blinding me. So.
Yeah. So I had, I want to ask you, I guess, in front of this audience, right? Mm-hmm. You did a lot of work in research around, around the hurricane, but you had a very specific angle, and that was rhyming through disaster, right? So kind of like the cultural aspect, the cultural response, right, and the poetic response to Hurricane Maria, right? And for folks that don't know, that may not be familiar with your work, right? What do you think? What was the theme that was running through, through the years that you've studied this now at this point?
The most central thing that everybody said, no matter where it went, was that the real disaster is colonialism, right? George was just talking about, well, ¿por qué Puerto Rico, lost all its electrical power grid, but the Dominican Republic didn't, right? And we know that it has to do with the fact that our energy is outsourced to Luma Energy now. But also, there's so much that was happening in Puerto Rico before Hurricane Maria, right? That has continued. 120 years of US colonialism is one thing, right? As well as just the fact that with Promesa, there is 1/3 of the Puerto Rican economy is focused on paying the debt. So programs, for example, to build roads, to build electrical infrastructure, to make sure that schools are up and running, that buildings meet code, those things are left to the wayside in order to pay this debt, right? And so there was a lot happening in Puerto Rico, right? From 2017 to 2019, we saw protests amassing, political change was happening. And then, of course, COVID-19 hits Puerto Rico like it hit the rest of the world. And that caused its own challenges, right?
And to add to that, right? Later on, after 2019, we had hashtag Ricky Renuncia.
Yes.
Right. And this is something where the cultural sector really rose up. And I think that's been, it's been documented in the media how in Puerto Rico and over here too, because I remember we took over Grand Central Station. We were taking over a lot of spots in the city. And it was protest, yes, but it was also protest with music, protest with dance, protest with poetry, it was interesting. I see these images and it was like it changed the game in terms of the way people saw protests in 2020 and going forward. So what was your reflection on that moment, the Ricky Renuncia moment?
Well, first, like poetry and music and cultural production has always been an important part of Puerto Rican expression, right? If we think back to even the formation of the quote unquote Puerto Rican nation, right? It's very connected to the poetry of people like Julia de Burgos. So poetry has had a long history. And we also saw this when we when we successfully got the Marina out of Vieques, that these artistic, poetic spaces were essential in curating funds. In my research, I focused on poetry spaces particularly because that's something that often gets neglected, right? A lot of people focus on theater. A lot of people focus on the visual art that is coming out, which is all phenomenal. But very few people, especially from an anthropological perspective, talk about the influence and the power of poetry spaces, right? So that for me was one of the things I noticed, and I'll talk about Ike Renuncia in a second. One of the things I noticed was that people would include poetry in like anthologies, right? But no one would really like interrogate what the poetry is doing and what the poetry spaces are doing, right? So by my own calculations, in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria, there was at least $500,000 that was raised by poetry spaces in the Northeast, right? And that went to Puerto Rico in the form of actually monetary donations, right? Like dinero cash, but also like people buying goods, because as we all know, there was a period after Maria where there was no water. Well, there was water. It was just abandoned on an airstrip and people were dying of dehydration while the government was hoarding water and resources.
Yes.
So there's that. And that leads us to Ricky Renuncia, right? So what we learn in the midst of Hurricane Maria is that we can't depend on the government, not the federal government, right? We have Donald Trump making comments like they want everything done for them, as if though Puerto Rico has not been a colony of the United States for 120 years, as if though the US government doesn't have a responsibility to Puerto Rico as a US territory, right? There's that. And then there's also the fact that local government was not doing what was necessary. So I heard from people in Puerto Rico that like alcaldes, right? So local mayors were hoarding supplies and then giving them out as like election incentives to people. Oh, vote for me and I'll give you these things, right? So who was there to save Puerto Rico and Puerto Ricans was themselves, right? The diaspora offered help, but we weren't there like physically on the ground. Some of us were, some of us weren't, right? People learned that, in fact, they couldn't rely on government to do anything for them, right? If anything, government was taking from them. And then we have the Riqui Renuncia movement happen, and that was a response to the Telegram chats where Rocaldo was making homophobic, misogynistic, rather not anti, but misogynistic comments, and laughing at the suffering of Puerto Rico, right? So what you saw was that people had recognized, wait, the government didn't do anything for us. We had to help each other and ourselves, which is well documented in the aftermath of disasters generally, or rather in the aftermath of like climate catastrophe. But in this instance, what people learned was, if we can't rely on government and government's not going to help us, and then on top of that, they're going to laugh at us, let's get them out, right? And so we saw this, right? We saw hashtag Riqui Renuncia, which after about 2 weeks of protesting, I think it was about 12 days, eventually the governor resigned. And then we saw with Wanda, right? It was like hashtag Renuncia, everybody that came in. And this current political party only won with 1/3 of the vote, right? So when people say things like, oh, the Puerto Ricans voted for these same people, no, they didn't, right? When people say Puerto Ricans vote for statehood, no, they don't. Only like 20% of the voting population shows up because people don't really believe in the political, atmosphere. They don't believe that government, voting is not going to do anything for a colony, right? Because you're still voting for puppet governments that are going to continue to enrich in Wall Street and not help the people, right?
I appreciate that. Absolutely. I think about, when folks started protesting like that, they felt their power, right? And then that kept feeding into itself, and it became this global moment. And it was something like I want to see that continue, right? That kind of momentum continue. But obviously we're in the midst of another natural disaster, right? And the thing about Puerto Rico is we have to keep fighting, right? We've been fighting since we were called Puerto Rico, I believe, right? And
before that, yeah,
before that, right? But Dr. Melinda Gonzalez, I want you to take off your academic hat for a moment, and I want you to put on your poeta hat. Share something with us, if you will.
I will. Just 1 second. I just wanted to respond to what you said real quick. Mm-hmm. I think that one of the things that's really important is that we need to move away from the discourse of resiliency, right? Puerto Ricans are exhausted. And as a people, we have the right to be exhausted, right? We still don't know what happened to all those families that were evacuated after Maria, where they are, where they've gone. One of the things in my study is that I worked with displaced families, and then COVID happened and they were lost, right? We don't know where those families are. I'm currently doing a study right now to try to find people that were displaced after Maria, to see where they are, what's going on, what they need. And that's displacement both inside of Puerto Rico, because when people talk about displacement, they often talk about people who left Puerto Rico, but there's tons of displacement inside Puerto Rico, right? There's people that I worked with that lost their house after Maria, got another house, then the earthquakes took down their house, got another house, and then something else happened, right? And they lost their home. So people are experiencing multiple displacements in Puerto Rico before they even think about leaving, right? And that's, so when we talk about displacement, or rather resiliency, we need to be really careful with that language, because we shouldn't have to be so resilient, right? We shouldn't have to. It's not the Puerto Rican people's responsibility themselves to make sure they have electricity and water, right? Those are things that government is supposed to provide, right? So I just wanted to say that. And then if you want, I'll still share a poem, but I took plenty of time. Okay. So this poem is called Si es Goya. It's a dedication to my abuelita. Mi abuelita never spoke a lick of English. She would say, ¿Para qué si tú me entiendes? In her cocina, she would boil fish heads, let me suck out their eyes, slurp guarapo, sabor tamarindo. Her house, it was Moca, Puerto Rico in Newark. Abuela was an Operation Bootstrap baby, as in pick yourself up by the bootstraps, as in save a little bit of everything, as in count your pennies and your blessings, as in bendiciones at every hour, every minute, every conversation. Abuelita was a divorcee when it wasn't cool, a Catholic woman who held mass in her living room, sewed her own batas, made her own tea, con azúcar que empalaga, always had food on her stove, kept her bellies full. Abuelita was a mother of 8+ children, a grandmother of 30 something, a great grandmother of many more she never got to see. Abuelita was an exile. A woman left, found herself a new husband, always brought sunshine in the middle of winter, always gave me un beso and then un peso para candy. Abuelita was todo que tiene que ser bueno, and so many things I never understood. A pioneer, displaced, making home so far away from home. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, let's
Thank you to Dr. Melinda Gonzalez. Thank you for your discourse today.
absolutely. And what I did ask from people who weren't specifically tied to an organization was to give me two options to support during this time. I would be remiss if I said, you know what, one of the options had to be your research and the work that you're doing. So I'm going to put that barcode up right now so people can see how they could connect.
George, that's the wrong flyer. I'm sorry. That's actually for a workshop I'm teaching. That's not for my research.
That's the wrong
Can
one.
you please take that down? I don't want to endorse my own work.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to get back to it in a little while when we have
No,
another.
it's
But,
fine.
but the organization that you gave me was Asociación Casa
Editorial Casa Cuna.
Editorial.
Editorial Casa Cuna. Just to tell you a little bit about them, they have been working in the Mayagüez region and the Southwest. They're specifically focused on helping displaced LGBTQI youth and folks in Puerto Rico. I've seen them do the work. They're doing the work. They're continuing to do the work. And they themselves, of course, have been impacted by all of these circumstances, earthquakes, hurricanes, colonialism. So I definitely put my full trust and support behind the work they're doing. Please donate to them. They are doing the work on the ground where it is needed most.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here today. I will if you could just send me an email and flag the right file because there was multiple files and I thought that was the nicest one, so that's why I picked it. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'll send it to you.
I just
Thank
had
you.
a bunch of files, but yeah. So Editorial Casacuna. Once again, we are going to be sharing these again. I know that Lala, my assistant, is actually in the chat right now. She's sharing the link to the website as well for those of you who don't know how to scan a QR code. Thank you so much. One last thing, actually, because you and I had like extensive conversations over the last couple of days. We talked a little bit about it because we're going to get to this eventually. We have organizations that are quote unquote not really organizations. They're just people who are doing the right thing for their neighbors. And you shared something very interesting with me about their situation, like people who are currently displaced, but yet they're still out there helping people. So we have some people in those types of situations that we're going to be sharing later on in the broadcast. So talk to me a little bit about why you think that that's important.
Yeah, I mean, my recommendation is to donate to people directly always, right? First, right? Your first line of when you're thinking about supporting in Puerto Rico, your first line of defense is your family, right? Your local community. Also, like one thing too that I just want to say is if you donate money to an individual, don't police how they spend that money. If they want to get a modelo and a little pasta, let them live, right? They've just lived through hurricanes, earthquakes, they're living through COVID, colonialism, right? Let people live. Sometimes people just need to take a load off, right? And I think that sometimes people donate and then they want an account of what they give to an individual. Don't do that. With an organization is obviously different. You want accountability for organizations to make sure that the money is getting to the people that they're claiming to support, right? So that's my first thing, is donate to people directly, because a lot of the times if you donate to major funds, the people will never see that money because it goes to overhead. And what we're doing here right now is we're making sure that communities that are in Puerto Rico are getting the money, right? Puerto Ricans don't need like a manager or a third party to distribute their funds for them, right? People there are doing the work, they're on the ground. They themselves are experiencing displacement. We have to remember, like the folks at Editorial Casa Cuna, they themselves are living through this, right? They live in the most impacted communities, and they're still going to cook food for people and make sure that people have, the simple things they need. Another thing too is like Taller Libertad, right? They're working closely with Taller Libertad, which is also in Mayagüez, and they are an artistic space, right? So definitely those spaces that have been there that continue to do the work, that, like Taller Libertad did like circus performances for kids after Maria, right? I had the pleasure of seeing some of their performance. They're phenomenal, right? People need those kinds of things. They need, to despejarse, right? Like to have moments of peace and breaks from the situation that they're living in, right? So I definitely recommend give to your family first. And if you don't have a relative there, talk to somebody, right, who has a relative there, and give to folks locally. Um, and then, find these collectives that are people who are living through it themselves. And then from there, don't start at the government and go down. Just donate to the government at all. Right? Start with the people and stay with the people. That's my recommendation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. We'll make sure that we share in the recap and towards the end the right flyer so that people could engage you about the work that you're doing. We love you, Melinda.
Thank you.
Doctora. Doctora. We love you, and we appreciate all the work that you do in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Take it easy.
Papo.
Yeah.
I think it's time that we share some more. We share some more organizations here. Let me look through my list, because we're gonna share. We're gonna bring somebody on in a minute that's gonna give us a lot of information about a place that we're maybe not familiar with. Right? Let's see what I got here.
Dale.
I'm trying to make sure I get somebody who's not gonna be here. So we're still waiting for Pedro Julio Serrano to jump on, but in the event that he can't make it, you got to remember a lot of these folks are on the island. They don't have Wi-Fi, so we have a lot of challenges just communicating with them. The reason why we worked on the list from La Corilla was because these were organizations that were put on a list, that are trusted, that are vetted, that I either know or somebody I trust immensely has put me onto. And believe me, there's a lot of people who wanted to be here tonight, and their list, they didn't make it for a lot of different reasons, and we'll talk about that probably later on in the show. But yeah, so we're dealing with a lot of people who can't connect. So in their absence, we went ahead and took the liberty of getting the right information for them for their donation pages and created the barcodes for them in case. So the organization that I want to highlight is one of the organizations that Pedro Julio Serrano actually shared with us in other conversations, right? A transfeminist network that supports the lives of LGBTQ plus communities, low income community, Black community, immigrant community, and people with disabilities on the archipelago. And that organization is called Sombría Queer. And I'm going to just put that, I'm going to find that real quick because, I have a lot of pages open here right now. Here we go. This is the organization that is actually representing for the LGBT community. Currently on the island, you could scan the barcode and actually learn about them, some of the activities and work that they're doing currently. And that's it. This yet another organization. What we try to do with this event is actually diversify the types of organizations we were working with, because there's so many different types of needs. So on that note, I want to invite one of my collaborators, somebody who I love dearly, and and I'll tell you a little story about her. Her name is Erasma Monticello Beras. She is a resident of Santo Domingo. Hello,
Hola, guapo.
what's going on?
Aquí en la lucha, esperando hablar con ustedes, ready to chat with you all.
So a lot of the conversation that we had early on, before the storm and after the storm, was the trajectory of the storm. And one of the things that eventually happened was that from Puerto Rico, the storm passed through the Dominican Republic. And I shared a stat earlier that Dominican Republic got hit with a Category 2, but they only lost 7% of their power, as opposed to Puerto Rico getting hit with a Category 1 and losing 100% of the power. So I'm inviting Erasma here. She is the host of Tambora Dialogues, a new podcast that actually decolonizes parenthood and has conversations of all types. We're in our first season. Full disclosure, I am the one of the producers on the show. It's an amazing show. There's such intense conversation. So I knew that she would actually bring it here today. So let's talk about DR. What's happening over in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, George, thank you. Juan Pablo, good to meet you. Hopefully one day we'll be in better circumstances, ¿no? Sí, pero bueno, the Fiona hit Santo Domingo, hit the Dominican Republic. When it left Puerto Rico, it was a Category 1. When it came to us, it was a Category 2. Pero diferente a Puerto Rico, differently to Puerto Rico, like you said, like it's not, although there's a lot of damage, it hasn't experienced the same level of damage as Puerto Rico. We have had approximately 1 million people that were struggling with, gaining access to fresh water, and approximately, I would say, 700,000 that lost electricity, but the power has come back. And, the country has mobilized to actually get water and food delivered to those specific regions that experience the most damage. And so there are eight provinces that were hit fairly hard. Those are La Altagracia, La Romana, El Ceibo, Samaná, Atomayor, María Trinidad Sánchez, Duarte, Monte Plata. And so some of these provinces are in the eastern side of the island or northeastern side of the island. But, I will say that, el gobierno aquí, the government here, declared an emergency pretty immediately. El presidente, Luis Abinader, went ahead and declared an emergency and really activated all of the emergency services, right? So Emergency Operations Center, and they're really leading the charge in evacuating some people, helping to rebuild some of the homes, getting all of the food distribution to the folks there. And the country as a whole has been mobilized, and people across all of the other provinces in the Dominican Republic have been developing like drop-off sites, so centros de acopio, so that folks can drop off water and all other types of supplies that those families in those 8 provinces need. So it's definitely receiving a lot of assistance and support del gobierno, of the government here, which is very different than what's happening in Puerto Rico, which makes me, incredibly angry, because, the United States government has the ability to do more than what it's doing. And it makes me even angrier to know that President Biden hasn't been there, hasn't stepped on the island to visit. ¿Qué pendejada es esa? So, that's really striking to me.
Yes, and I do want to give you an update for those people who may have been disconnected, because sometimes these stories they traumatize us, they re-traumatize us if we were involved in Maria, if we lived through that. But one of the news stories that just came through a little bit over an hour ago was that the U.S. government has approved the Jones Act waiver for that tanker that's out in the middle of the ocean waiting to deliver 300,000 gallon or barrels rather of diesel fuel for the hospitals, and to help with the infrastructure damage that the lack of electricity is causing. So some good news. on that front. Why we have to fight for that every single time that there's a catastrophe is another thing. And I think that some people are going to need to start assuming roles in the process of abolishing or redefining what that Jones Act looks like, especially during human crisis, right? Let's talk about some of the organizations. So I tasked you, I gave you some homework, and
Yes,
I
you
asked
did.
you to give me some names of some organizations that you trust, that your colleagues trust in Dominican Republic, so that we could share it here with everybody. Because the truth of the matter is, our communities in New York are super tight, in the diaspora in New York specifically, right, and some other cities in Orlando, for example. And there's so many Boricuas that are mixed, right? There's so many people who are half Puerto Rican and half Dominican. So there was a definite interest in the community to make sure that we represented for the primos on the island. So tell me a little bit about the organizations that you recommended to us.
Sí, claro. So there are, several organizations that are doing some, fabulous work. But, as Doctora Melinda Gonzalez mentioned earlier, some of them, may not necessarily have the infrastructure to receive, support from, international folks, right? So folks that are off of the island, but are still doing tremendous work and can really use the support and funding. One of those organizations is Fundación Cruz Jiminian. And, it's a nonprofit organization that provides health services to, all of the Dominican Republic. And they're really mobilizing to go to those specific provinces to provide direct support, because people think about, only the infrastructure. They think about homes, they think about electricity, right? Pero también you have to think about, all of that running dirty water has health effects on the families and children that are exposed to that. So, the Fundación Cruz Jiminian is mobilizing people to actually go there and provide health services to those communities. The other one is Banco de Alimentos en la República Dominicana. So it's a global food bank here in the Dominican Republic that has been working 24/7 to mitigate hunger all across the island, but are really focusing right now on rescuing and distribution of food in those 8 provinces in Santo Domingo, all over the DR, but really in those 8 provinces. La otra organización, the other organization, and I'm sorry I keep going back to Spanish. It's just that, living in Santo Domingo now, it's like all I speak is Spanish. And sometimes I forget my English, but I'll try to speak more English. Cabarete Sostenible is based in Cabarete, Puerto Plata. And, that community has also been hit really hard. And Cabarete Sostenible, what they're doing at the moment, similar to, Banco de Alimentos, they are trying to get more food, more water, more supplies, and medicine to all of the, individuals and families in Cabarete, Puerto Plata that are currently in need. And so they can use additional support. And the other organization that is similar to kind of like a GoFundMe, it's called Hompeame. And that organization actually shares, stories of, individuals and families across the island who are really struggling and could use, support in whatever it is that, that they're struggling with. And they have specifically created a page on their website to address the specific needs of the families in the provinces that I mentioned before. And so folks who are interested can go in there, read about what's happening with those individual folks, and actually directly fund whatever it is that they need assistance with, right? So it could be accessing, let's say, supplies to rebuild their home. It could be, setting up a way of pumping out the water in their home or elsewhere, or access to additional medical services, because chances are that some of these health issues may become complicated as the days wear on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for curating that list. We'll add that list to the sofritoforyoursoul.com list. Like I said before, that was originally the list from La Corilla. And we told them that we would always acknowledge the fact that they were the cornerstone of that list, but we're going to add more organizations as time progresses. So thank you so much for your contributions today. Let's talk very briefly about the podcast, because the podcast that you host is doing very important work. So let's talk a little bit about that and how people could support you with that follow button.
Sure. Yeah. So, Tambora Dialogues started off as, as a way of helping our people, our Latina people, renativize ourselves, right? We've been indoctrinated into a white dominant culture, and sometimes some of the core values, our ancestral values, have been lost. And so the podcast is really trying to help us reconnect with those core values, right? And one of those core values is exactly what we're doing right now. We're showing que somos familia, right? It doesn't matter que estamos en diferentes islas, that we're on different islands. We're family. Latinoamericanos, always act in the collective we. And so the podcast serves as a reminder of that, and to really help serve as a bridge to all of the different, Latinoamericanos, the cultures, the history, so that we can create awareness, but also unify and, pull on those levers to create the change that we want to see for ourselves and for our community going forward. And so that is the idea of the podcast. We now are 9 episodes in, and we are very open. It's a very raw conversation. No tenemos pelos en la lengua. There aren't any filters, in anything that we say. We're honest, we're open, we're direct, and we're hopeful. And if you're interested in learning more about the podcast or listening in, you can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Twitter at Tambora Dialogue 1, and you can also, find us on Facebook.
All right, awesome. Papa, do you have any questions for Erasma? Because this is your first time meeting her.
No, but I'm definitely gonna check out the Tambora Dialogues. It sounds like an amazing project. Congratulations on 9 episodes.
Thank you.
I just want to make a reminder to all the folks that are watching this that are maybe not be on Daily Sofrito, that all the links that Erasma has just mentioned are posted under the Daily Sofrito live of this broadcast. So if you're on the Capicu or on any other, shared broadcast, make sure to come back to Daily Sofrito to get the links.
Absolutely. And that website is facebook.com/sofrito for your soul. Thank you, Erasma. Papo, you're going to get a kick out of this. If you look at the logo of Tambora Dialogues, which was created by Erasma's son, big shout out to him. It looks like the drum that we had in Capicu when we first started.
Oh, no, I love that. Oh, I got to see it.
Just like
it's fabulous. Yeah.
So we didn't get a chance to acquire that conga, unfortunately. We don't know where it is these days, but if we find it, we would definitely buy it, because it was like the Showtime at the Apollo, like rubbing the trunk, like it was a very special piece of our history. So the tambora, it links in that way. It's spiritually. It was something, that's why I loved it when I saw that your son created it. It was just amazing. And I want to give a shout out to Maria Nieto, who's the executive director of the podcast, and she's watching right now. She is definitely on it. She is getting those guests in, and she's hustling. She's hustling. So big shout out to her and to everybody who makes her Tambora Dialogues happen. Thank you so much.
And to you, George, for making the connections and producing it, and it's just been a fabulous experience, and I'm so grateful.
Yes, absolutely. We'll see you soon, okay? Take care. Man, Papo, like this is, it's like we jump in to do this, right? I want to give some history, right? This event is not even like a week old. Like literally from the day that we announced that we were doing it, we jumped right in. So this is less than 7 days. The community's support has been amazing. A couple of people I want to shout out. I want to shout out David Aviles from PR Flags Up. I want to shout out Don Bochinche from the Bochinche News Network. Funny guy. I want to shout out the office of the New York City Public Advocate, Jumani D. Williams, for his support on the communication side of this. And of course, our partner groups, right? Capicu, Siembra Academy, Sofrito Media Group, and of course Talento Unlimited, who are lending us assistance on the back end of things, right? Big shout out to my assistant Lala, because I'm telling you right now, if Lala wasn't in my corner, none of this would happen. Like, this thing would have been a half hour and we would have had 2 guests. Like, that's what would have happened if Lala wasn't in the picture.
She's lighting up the chat right now. You got to see.
She's off the hook.
Mm-hmm.
So the next person that I'm going to bring up to the stage is actually somebody very special to me personally. She's one of my best friends, like a sister to me, really. We do share the same last name, so that's always interesting. Very people actually think that we're brother and sister sometimes. We've worked with her throughout the years. You know, she's been our correspondent at the parade. She has her own beautiful brand. She had a show called Remix Your Lifestyle. Now she's doing other types of work. She's a spiritual healer. She's a strong woman. I mean, she's from the Bronx. Like, I don't know what else to say about her, but it's Rebecca Gitana. Rebecca, you there? There she is. Yes. What's up, Reina?
Woo! I don't know about you guys, but I feel so emotional, so inspired, so angry, so joyful, like all of the things. And I think that it's like, I know that other people that are watching and that will watch are probably feeling all the same things. Like, it's beautiful to be together. And it's also like effed up that we have to like constantly fight in this way and show up in this way. And I just want to like honor that feeling and all of those energies that are here now. It's very
Absolutely.
real.
So the reason why, and I'm gonna let Papo actually chat with you as well. But one of the reasons why we brought you here is because, for me personally, as a friend, as somebody who considers himself your brother, your work it really touches me. And you know, we always talk about how important it is to have spiritual balance. We talk how important it is to release negative energy. We talk about how important it is for self-care. And I thought that this program would not be complete if we didn't talk about that, especially for the people who are on the island, who are going through it. You know, we're here, you know, we're trying to help, and estamos desesperados because we want to be of service. But there's people who are really, really going through it right now. So I want you to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to step out for a second. Papo, I'm going to let you rock with her for a little while, and I'll be right back. Thank you.
Yeah, there's 2 parts, right? And I was talking to George about this earlier. There's 2 parts of it. One is being on, I don't like the word the mainland, being here in the States, being on Turtle Island, being in this, North America continent, and being of Borican descent and watching and hearing all of the things, right? And even from Maria, we know how traumatic it was to watch all of the images, to see, what was going down, to see the president do his tossing of bounties, to see ships being stopped at the port and shipment containers that we had all mindfully and lovingly packed be blocked from reaching our people. And that in itself is a trauma and an angering experience, and brings up so many feelings and emotions. And, it's even been said from even people that I've talked to on the island, like, all we saw was our pueblo and what was happening there, which was upsetting and concerning, but we actually didn't get to see the larger picture the way that those of us in the diaspora got to see. And so our vantage point, even seeing all of those images, when you see those things, you're living it, you're feeling it, and it becomes a part of you. And then being on the island and having gone back twice after Maria, spending a month in total after Maria, and all of those experiences, and talking to people who, one man who lost his entire home and who had to bury 70% of his animals, to a young boy who was, reenacting the sounds of Maria, the angry sounds, and all of the things that they lived and experienced. to talking to elders on the phone saying there's no help coming. Meanwhile, we know what we're doing here in New Rico to pack and to prepare. So there's just so many layers to what we've experienced. And that's just this, right? That's not, thinking about the sterilization, which is only a few generations back. Thinking about displacement, being an economic refugee, having to leave your homeland because there is nothing there for you, because that's the way that colonialism has set it up. So there's so many emotions and feelings that come. And I know that when this hurricane hit now, for me, as someone who is a child of Borinquen, and just, as we all are, right? The feelings that came up, and feelings of shutting down, of extreme anxiety, of anger, and all of these things. And they're so real. And I just, again, want to honor those emotions and those feelings, because it's like Doctora Melinda was saying, we shouldn't have to be so resilient. We shouldn't have to keep surviving abuse. It's like saying to the abused wife, wow, she's so strong. It's like, well, she shouldn't be taking those blows, right? And so there's so many emotions. And I know, George, we were talking and wanting to share, like, what do we do in these moments when we're feeling despair, when we're feeling anger? And yeah, we're definitely going to get into that.
No, absolutely. And, thank you for sharing that, because I know, especially, in the diaspora, right? So I work in El Barrio. El Barrio, you see the flags. I see it at least twice, 3, 4 times a day in El Barrio. So whenever these types of things happen, when Maria happened and now Fiona happened, the neighborhood is heavy. Is really heavy, and we get the additional heaviness of seeing it on these screens, right? You're seeing it on the TV, you're seeing it on your phone, you're seeing it, and then when you're actually reaching out to folks, I reached out to a lot of artists that were on the island, that are currently on the island, that lived through Fiona, and what they're dealing with is really, like, upsetting to me. They're upset on the phone saying, like, yo, I want to be here. I've invested here. I've done all these things to stay connected to where I am. But when things hit the fan,
yes,
right? Where are we? What are we doing?
Yeah. Hold on, I just realized that my phone is low. My
You gotta plug it in.
it's so true. Yeah, and it's one of those things, right? Because we want to be there. We want to, especially once we're back home, we want to stay, we want to be, and it's just so much we have to survive.
Gitana, you have always been, I have probably not used this term with you before, but I've seen you as a leader in creative placemaking, right? Which is something that, as an artist, I entirely believe in. Like, I believe we can take public space, or space that isn't generally considered ours, and make it our own, and make it something that's collective for the folks in our community. So, and you've done that with the Lifestyle Remix for years. And then now I know you're dealing with nesting, which it's funny, because the name of it is still placemaking, even though I know that there's a bigger spiritual component to what you're speaking of there, right? But what do you think about that? About the aspect of placemaking that we have to do now during what feels like fracture, right?
Yeah. Well, one is, not shrinking ourselves. Taking up space. So even if you're in New Rico, even if you're in Virginia, wherever you are, walking with the winds of Borinquen in your hair, it is staying connected as best you can to your family and elders, and coming back home literally to the island and taking up space on the island. Like, we deserve to be there. And our medicine is there. I don't give a F where you are in the world, how beautiful it is. There is nothing nothing like coming back home. Nothing. And we deserve that. We deserve that. You deserve to be home and vibrate with that energy, to bathe in the rainforest. The last time I was in the rainforest, there was a little boy and he's with his mom and he's like, Mom, this is inner peace. This is inner peace. And it's called the Island of Enchantment for a freaking reason. And part of the reason why many of us are not grounded in our power, not grounded in our potential, is because we are disconnected from the motherland. And there's even shame behind that. Oh, I haven't been to the island in 15, 20 years. Let me tell you, Mama Borinquen does not care. Go home. Go and see what's there for you. You know, the more that we are connected, the diaspora and those on the island, we become more and more powerful. We become resources to one another. We become spiritual support systems to one another. We become that lifeline to one another. So if you want to amplify your spiritual wellness and your powers, your psychic abilities, your healing abilities, your intuition, your loving nature, your authentic self, go back home. Be there. Be there.
Thank you for that message. That was beautiful.
Thank you, Rebecca. I knew that that would be the impact of this session, right? One of the things I will say that one of the positives that came out of the work that Papo, everybody's done in for Hurricane Maria was the fact that, you know, when I grew up in Puerto Rico, yo era el gringo, el americuchi, they called me all kinds of names. I lived in Loíza Aldea, so I stood out because I was the lightest skinned person in town. Me and my mom were the lightest skinned people in town. And one of the things I'll say is that we always were referred to as esa gente de afuera.
Yeah.
And that used to hurt, you know, because it's like I'm over here, like I'm ready to learn the things and Taino, and I was really into history and I was learning all the things, and I probably knew more than most of my students that were Puerto Rican, but we were from afuera. Yeah. And I'll never forget the first time I went back to Puerto Rico after our big trip to Orocovis, to the farms for the first time. And people started recognizing us and started seeing us and like, oh my God, you guys, yeah, thank you. And, you know, we started getting a lot of gratitude, but the gratitude was different. Like it was like the diaspora was respected now. Yeah. Like there was this shift in like, wow, you guys really came through. We've been shitting on you all these years and you guys really came through. And you know, I think it kind of reverted back a little bit in some places. Yeah. But you know, I need people. Necesito que la gente de Puerto Rico sepan que la gente de la diáspora, we really want to help. We really want to, you know, we want a place to come back to. And that's real. You know, that's real. Politically, yeah, there's a lot of things that you know about what's really happening in the island that we don't, and we have to have that conversation. We have to have conversations about what the political parties, what their real agendas are. We have to have conversations about what you and I spoke about earlier, about the nonprofits and how they're gaming the system. You know, there's certain nonprofits that don't belong to us, that are on the island. They're shifting the money that they're supposed to be paying into Act 60, and they're shifting it into their own little micro communities, their little compounds, as they call them. Yeah. We have to have those conversations honestly, and we have to leverage each other's strengths to be able to make a change. So if we had the power, because we're on, what did you call it, Turtle Island?
Yeah,
we're on Turtle Island, and we have the political power here, then we have to be the ones to repeal Act 60. We have to be the ones to talk about the Jones Act. We have to do these things in order to put them in a better position, because they have enough to deal with, you know? And that's really, at the end of the day, that's really where my head is at, is like, what can I do that key? And you know me, I live half, you know, I go back and forth. Yeah. I'm on the island. I changed my number. I got a Puerto Rico number now. Like I'm there, but I can't stay there permanently because of the fact that it's not sustainable for me. it's really hard for me to run my business and be in a position to be there. But one of the things, even like before Maria, I had thought to myself, oh, they have this act. Let me move my business there. It'll be a good move for me. And it wasn't until I spoke to real business owners, and it's like, you're gonna come and do what I spoke to somebody who does what I do, that I met at BloggerCon, and he said, you're gonna come here and you qualify technically because you're a US, you live in the US, you qualify for this program, but now you're gonna compete against me and have the advantage of not having the overhead that I have. I have to pay these taxes. You're not going to have to pay those taxes. You're going to have an advantage over me that's not fair. And I decided not to do it as a result. Do I operate in Puerto Rico? Yes, I have clients in Puerto Rico. I work with Puerto Rico, but I did not join the Act 60, or what it was called before, 2022. I did not join because I didn't want to be part of the problem. Which makes things harder for me as a business owner, but it was the right thing to do. I want to have a Puerto Rico to go back to. I want my grandchildren to go to Puerto Rico and see, so I could tell them stories and I could take them places that I've been to. We're losing our island. So I'm gonna get up my my soapbox, but that's really, at the end of the day, that's really what it is for me.
Well, it's important to find out what these outsiders are doing and to understand their game and to see how, you can use that game that's been set up for good.
Yeah.
And we do need to educate ourselves on what's going on, because people are taking advantage and they are buying our shit up. Sorry to curse, but so if before your grandmother sells her house, have conversations with your cousins, with your people. How can we get this money together just to hold down this land?
Yeah. But
Even if you don't know what you're going to do with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have to really, be warriors, and we really have to be entitled, have a spirit of entitlement as well, because sometimes we're too humble and we let things fly.
Yeah, I saw a graphic the other day on Instagram that said, somos resilientes, we're resilient, which goes back to Dr. Melinda's comment, but it was scratched out and it said resistente. We have to be more resistente as opposed to resilient.
Yes. You have to be more resistant. And we, the same fire that we have used on Fifth Avenue, que bonita bandera, and yelling and losing our voice, and Monday morning having no voice. We need to use that energy to find out what's available to us there, to find out how people can, utilize our privilege, how we can use our privilege to, to do the outreach that needs to be done, and also to enjoy the medicine of our land.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you, many of us would be so much more empowered if we would just stop going to, Miami spring break, and we would go to the montaña and sit with some elders and eat some pana off the tree. Let me tell you, you want to have a psychedelic experience, go eat some llame and some yautía from the ground. Okay, I have literally eaten root vegetables, and I'm like, I'm feeling a little psychedelic. Like, this is our medicine. This is what empowers us. This is what gives us that sense of entitlement and honoring the birthright that is ours. Absolutely. And not be afraid of, whatever. We're so powerful. We're so powerful.
Absolutely. Do me a favor, let people know how they can connect with you. Let them know a little bit about the services you provide, so that they have a frame of reference.
Yes. I create safe spaces for healing. If you want to learn more about me, go to RebeccaGitana.com. I'm an author. I'm a self-taught television producer. I have a TV show called Healing Through the Home, which in essence really reminds us to bring the motherland into our home space, to bring those ancestral elements into our space, and how that can empower us and really bring more clarity into our spirit, into our mind, and create a more purposeful path, versus just living in this world of commercialism, buying, keeping up with the Joneses. It's really about keeping things simple and authentic, And I'm a servant of the people. I'm a student. I'm a teacher, a gentle warrior with Bemba Colora. And I'm here for it all. And I just want to remind everyone to honor your feelings at this time, to utilize that rage. Rage is sacred. Rage is not a problem. Rage is fire. So utilize that fire to create change, to learn. Learning is one of the greatest ways to create change. And that's one thing people need to understand. Like, you want to be part of the revolution? Learn, listen, show up to things like this. Some of the greatest things I've ever been able to learn has been going to protests, sitting in Capicu and in poetry events, being in community. I was so down last week with this whole hurricane thing. And then Viajero, who's also now on the islands, he did a beautiful art installation about Maria for the 5-year anniversary. And just being there around community and hearing the drum and the bomba plena, that healed me. So we need to remember those elements. And I know we've all been very disconnected because of the pandemic and all of that. But just remembering to plug yourself in so that way you are not alone. Nobody has to be alone.
We're glad to be in community with you. Thank you so much. All right. Te quiero mucho.
Te quiero mucho.
Bendiciones. Bye.
Bendiciones.
Yeah, Papo, man. This is we're hitting it from all angles, man. It really is. I want to since Hitana didn't have a specific group to share with us, I want to share one person who helps me understand what's happening on the island a lot. There's a independent journalist by the name of Bianca Graulao. I think I'm saying that right. Bianca Graulao. And she's our David Bernard, right? David Bernard was really big with CBS News or whatever, but the difference between, like many things on the island, the difference between the outsiders and us is that, sometimes there's no position for us. There's no place for us in the space, right? The journalism space is very restrictive and very, it's not lucrative for journalists to be journalists in Puerto Rico. And it's dangerous even when you're dealing with the type of colonialism that we're dealing with. So Bianca couldn't be here tonight because she's busy doing what she does, right? But I wanted to take the opportunity to actually share her GoFundMe that actually helps her sustain her life while she's doing this work for us. Bianca, if you're watching on the replay or whatever, we appreciate you. You are a blessing to us, and I hope that people understand what you're doing right now for us as a people, and the historical context of what that means to us long term. So if you can, definitely send her a couple of bucks, comprar un cafecito. If you would buy me a drink at Capicu, instead of buying me the drink, that's what my birthday just passed. Buy my birthday drink for her, because she definitely deserves it. She's doing her thing big time.
She is. She's actually the way that a lot of, especially younger folks here in the diaspora, are getting their news about Puerto Rico. Now because she's very big on Instagram, and she's there. She's living it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
She's not doing it. She doesn't fly in to do this. She's on the ground there doing it. And actually, she's trained as a journalist. And decided to go this route. So I really, really respect that that initiative that she has.
Yeah,
and
actually,
did you see her in the Bad Bunny? How he added her to his video, and then had this whole piece that was amazing. And that Bad Bunny gave her a platform like that because obviously she's doing something right.
Yeah, and as you said it, as good as David Bernard has been, and as much influence as he has in the news community, and he's won awards for his work in Puerto Rico. The truth of the matter is that he's not one of us. He doesn't live on the island. He flies in and does the volunteerism thing, right? He comes in and talks about it, and then goes back home to California. And she's there. The other day, she showed us how she threw away the food in her fridge.
Exactly.
She's human. She's one of us. So again, I'm gonna put her barcode up one more time. If you can, please support her, because we need more people like her. We need her to influence more people to do what she's doing, and make a difference. So thank you, Bianca, for all you do. This
I
is
think I think they're both necessary, though. I think David is necessary
oh
too
yeah,
in a different way, because he has, he puts eyes on us that might not be watching us. But
absolutely.
Bianca is for us. That's in the diaspora. You're watching Bianca.
Yes, and then the thing is that there is a space for allyship, right? There are, if the person is genuine and they really want to help the people that they're serving, then there's space for that. There's space for somebody to be a genuine ally, and I think that he is. I feel that I've never seen him do anything that said otherwise, right? He's continued to come back. People love him. They see him in the street, they go nuts. Like, he really deserves that place in our community. But we also need people who really know what it's like to live in Puerto Rico and actually have experienced it, so that we could learn from them as well. I want to bring in somebody else who's a longtime Capicool supporter. It kind of goes into what Rebecca Hitana was talking about, as far as going back to the earth and experiencing certain things. So I want to take the opportunity now to invite um, Carmen Laura Bonilla to the stage. Let me get you in the right place here with the spotlight. Welcome to the Pal Pueblo virtual telethon. You've been to Pal Pueblo before. You've been to the Capicu community for quite some time. Uh, Thank you for being here. And we want to find out a little bit more about what you're doing, because I thought it was very interesting. We did have a couple of people that were supposed to come on to talk about environmental issues, and because of the fact that they're working on the island, they may not be able to be on tonight. But I would like to hear a little bit about what initiative you're working on, and then we'll play a little video to bring it all together and tie it up.
Sure. Hola. It's so good to see you. So good to join you here tonight. I'm so excited to be part of this and to be sharing this information. So after 15 plus years living in the New York, New Jersey area, I moved home to Puerto Rico in 2021. And I founded a group called Yo Amo Verde, I Love Green, which is all about generating more environmental awareness among residents of Puerto Rico and of the diaspora. Definitely along the lines of what you were talking with Hitana, continuing to keep our communities together. And there is so much going on the island that I think it's so important for the diaspora to continue to keep track of, to learn what's going on, right? For that time that you decide to come back to Mama Borinquen, right? So that things don't take you by surprise. And so Yo Amo Verde is looking to be that bridge of connection for both communities to really generate more awareness and understanding of what's going on environmentally.
So you have a special invitation video that kind of like sums all of that up. I want to play that for folks now. And let's see. There we go.
Saludos desde Puerto Rico, my friend in the diaspora. My name is Carmen Laura Bonilla. Like you, I lived in the diaspora for many years. In 2021, I moved home to Puerto Rico and I founded the group Yo Amo Verde. Yo Amo Verde is a group generating more environmental awareness among residents of Puerto Rico and the diaspora. We all know that the climate crisis has been battering Puerto Rico hard. Hurricane Maria, now Hurricane Fiona. And you want to keep in touch with what's going on in the island regarding climate, environment, and the use of our natural resources. So I invite you to join us on Facebook on Yo Amo Verde.
All right. Thank you so much. Yo estoy aquí tratando de. Ok, estamos bien. Um, what are some of the things that what are some of the bigger conversations that are happening on the platform right now? What are people really talking about?
Mhm. Well, right now it's all about recovery, right? Right now it's all about when is power being restored and following up and holding Luma and the government accountable for when power will be restored. I just saw, for example, some statistics that while the southwest of the island was the one hit the hardest, it's the one that is going to be the latest to be restored power to. And so, just a couple of days ago, I saw some stats that I would totally believe that they must be higher than this. There was an estimate that about 16 people have lost their lives already due to the lack of power and the need that they have in order to sustain their lives. These are many times people who have um, serious disease, right? And they need oxygen, for example, right? And so that's a big part of the conversation. In addition to that, something that Bianca Graulau talked about in in her documentary in partnership with Bad Bunny, there's a lot going on in terms of the sale of our natural resources, of our beaches. There's a lot going on there that really puts our population in danger, really, of like say, being more impacted by storm surges, etc. So definitely a lot going on and so much more opportunity for us on the island to be doing more for the environment. Just a quick example, recycling programs. We can be doing so much more in terms of recycling. Right now, to give you a sense, I am located in Mayagüez. If I wanted to go recycle glass, there isn't a place until San Sebastian. That would take me at least 30-40 minute drive, right? Going up the mountain to go have glass recycled, right? Probably one of the first things that one of the first materials ever recycled. So a lot of opportunity to do more.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight. Tell people where once again where to go to connect with your community.
Yes, so we are on Facebook. You can find us by searching for Yo Amo Verde. You're going to see our logo is a green heart on top of a plantain leaf. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Carmen.
Good to see you.
And on that note, one of the organizations that couldn't be here tonight is La Cooperativa Hidroeléctrica de la Montaña, which, if I'm not mistaken, was once known as Unidos por Utuado. La Cooperativa Hidroeléctrica de la Montaña is the first electric power cooperative in Puerto Rico. It's organized with the purpose of providing access to cost-effective and resilient energy from renewable sources from its owner partners in the communities and businesses in the municipalities of Adjuntas, Jayuya, Lares, and Utuado. So I'm going to put their barcode up here real quick so that we can support them for what they do. Thank you, Carmen, once again.
Thank you.
Excuse me. I oh wait, no, wrong one. Wrong Carmen. I'm sorry, guys. I've been talking so much for the last couple of days. My throat is like completely like dry. So this is Cooperativa Hidroeléctrica. Once again, for those of you who just joining us, every single organization that we're highlighting tonight has a barcode that you can connect directly with the organization, find out about volunteer opportunities, find out what kind of things they need in the short term, what their long-term plans are, and a direct way to pay them if you want to support them. Also, if you're finding this broadcast as part of a replay, feel free to share it with people. We'll have shorter versions of recaps. We'll have a green energy type of video that'll have just the organizations that deal with that. We'll have one for women and for our transgender and LGBT folks. We'll have one for our artists who are doing a ton of work. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think Pablo, you told me this the other day that in talking with Melinda, that most of the people that we talk to on a regular basis about Puerto Rico, they're all artists, visual artists, and poets. So so we're definitely the people that have this interest in our heart, right? We're little.
When I'm reaching out to folks on the island, besides my my actual family, right? The other folks that I've been in contact with have been poets and artists, right? And they vow to tell these stories, once they're in a better space. Because right now, though, it's la lucha.
Yeah, it's hard. And big shout out to Los Títeres, who just hosted a book release party for our friend Mario Pagan, who released his book Receta, and he basically all the proceeds from his book went to hurricane victims. I think he specifically gave money to the Viajeros Fund, and we actually went to Viajeros exhibition right after that. But one of the other things too is that the book company that he's using, Bookshop, they actually they're also giving 20% of the sales that are online to Maria. I'm sorry, not to hurricane funds, Hurricane Maria and Fiona funds as a result. So shout out to them for putting that together. Shout out to Viajero, who I had the opportunity years ago to like load up my truck when I had that big black truck, Papo. Loaded it up to the point where we had like bags up to our chins. Like it was crazy, and it felt shady because we're like in Industry City, and we're rolling up to the storage unit. Right, we had a storage unit that was donated to Viajero, and we're taking all these boxes out and whatever. And it just looks so shady. I'm surprised that we didn't, we didn't get pulled over or something. Like it just didn't feel right. Somebody coming from Brooklyn and filling up their truck that much, it just didn't feel right, right? But shout out to him for all he does. There's a lot of great characters out there who are doing the work. I want to welcome one such character that I had the pleasure of meeting this year at the Puerto Rican Day Parade. He is a social media influencer. He's somebody who does the TikTok and Instagram game really well. He came with a bunch of influencers from the island in Florida to be at the parade this year and amplify the work of the New York Puerto Rican Day Parade. And he hangs out with one of my good friends and longtime collaborators, David Aviles from PR Flags Up. So I want to get the opportunity to introduce you to Dean Huertas. Dean, thank you for being here, man.
Thank you. How you doing? How's everybody doing?
Everybody's good. I'm just trying to get you situated here. Hold on. I want to give you a spotlight here. So Dean, you have a very interesting story that we've heard a couple of times tonight. We heard a couple of people talk about people who repatriate Puerto Rico,
right?
People who grew up here in the States and maybe didn't have as much exposure to the island, and you've really created a great narrative and have let people experience your move to Puerto Rico in such an interesting way that when this happened, you became very valuable in the sense that you became the voice, right, of that repatriation movement. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk a little bit about you going back to Puerto Rico. What inspired that?
I many things. It was first started off as long trips in the summertime, going to see my grandmother, who's she passed away years ago, and like spending the time in the countryside with my roots, with my native land, and learning about my culture, my heritage, that established that connection for me. And after she had passed away, there wasn't the same trips that we used to do before because she wouldn't be there to take care of us. So it was like me wanting to be back, me wanting to be back for so long. And then when I went to college, I was always moving. I was always like living in one city to another, one dorm to another, one country to another, because I took advantage of international travel within my college. And no matter all the places I've been to, and I just living outside of New York, I was just like, no, it's not like Puerto Rico. It's not like Puerto Rico. I want Puerto Rico. I want it, you know. And fortunate in my travels of living in South Africa for a month and living in Panama for 3 months because of internships, and living in Florida for the time I did, it was just like I can live outside of New York City. That was the first goal. Can I live outside of New York City? Can I live outside my 5 boroughs? Can I live away from my Dunkin' Donuts, which I miss so much? I ain't gonna lie. It's not the same. It's not the same. Can I live without the same type of transportation? Can I live without that? And being where I was, I just knew that it's possible. It's possible. I had to walk a lot of places, and I knew I had to get a car at some point. I needed to get my license at some point. I was a late bloomer in getting my license, man. I didn't get my license until I was like 21, 21, 22. I think I
So
didn't
last
get
year. So last year.
yeah, basically, yeah.
Dope.
And then after everything was said and done, quarantine happened. Boom, what happens? I lose both my jobs. I'm literally stuck at home, like I'm bored and I'm stuck in the house, and I'm just like, I'm like, yeah, I have nothing to go back to when quarantine starts again. I would have to find another job, or maybe go back to the same job, which I wasn't so happy with before, even before quarantine. I was living a very depressed life in New York after I had done college, after I've done my traveling, and I'm just like, you know what? I perceive this quarantine as the reset button. This is time to start my life over the way I want to do it. So, bought a one-way ticket to Puerto Rico, and I was just like, I'm gonna make it happen. 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 And I've been making it happen for a couple of years now, and I regret nothing. I regret nothing.
That's awesome, man. I'm so happy to see it. Se te ve la cara. I mean, before the hurricane hit,
Yeah.
I would just see that alegría in your face every day when you were out there and just rediscovering new things. And as an adult, it's a different vibe too. As a kid, you see things very, very differently. So now the hurricane hits, and you jump in to help your neighbors. Let's talk a little bit about the work that you're doing, who you're doing it with, what things are being accomplished on the island right now.
So I've been working very closely with Mi Patria. After the hurricane hit, I knew power was just not going to be a thing for a while. It was not going to be a thing. And I was just like, all right, so we're getting into this lifestyle. So I was like, just make the best of it. I've learned how to make the best out of the worst, and I'm just going in heads forward. As long as I'm breathing, as long as I'm alive, as long as I'm here, I'm like, you know what? Time to get to work. And I got in touch with Mi Patria ASAP, and we're like, I didn't even say is there anything I can do to help? I just said, what are we doing? What's the first move? Where are we going? And they just said, we got these projects lined up. If you have the capacity within your schedule, come with us, and we'll start delivering goods and getting some work done. I said, catch me every single day, or every single other day, because actually I needed a day to catch my breath too, because there's only so much that can be done, and there's always so much work that's going to be done. But you just have to remember that you have to take care of yourself first. Make sure that you are in good position, because you don't want to spread yourself too thin. Then you don't even realize what the work you're doing is how it's affecting other people if you're not at 100%. Always make sure you charge your batteries, make sure you charge yourself, make sure you claim that spiritual energy, and just take a moment to breathe, sit down, relax. And that's what I had to do the other day. And I was just like, I needed that restart button to get back to the work. And just yesterday, we just delivered several mattresses over from Isabela over to Barrio Playas, which was one of the hardest neighborhoods that got affected by the storm. And we just delivered beds, because a lot of people lost their homes, they lost their everything, lost their furniture. So hopped on a truck and we just started driving over to pick up the mattresses and deliver the mattresses straight over to Añasco. So shout out to my people from Añasco. Shout out to my people that are doing the work. You know, I see a lot of people that are on and off. Looking at you guys off the island that are putting in the work. You know, so I appreciate all of y'all.
La gente de afuera, estamos
Yeah.
bien, ¿verdad? La gente de afuera.
My peoples,
Papo.
my peoples.
Hashtag de afuera. That's us right here. Dean, let me tell you, man. I'm not on your I'm not on TikTok like that. I know you're a monster on TikTok, but I catch you on Instagram, and I really, really do appreciate the humor that you bring right to the dimensions of what it is to be in the diaspora, right? You know what it is to be here in New York City, but you also know what it is to be on the island. And for somebody like me, I kind of like live vicariously through your travels on the island, and I feel like you did a video not that long ago talking about if you're from here, you're like, I can't live in Puerto Rico, and then you gave like all these different examples of stuff that and I thought that was really amazing. So just on the face of that, it's important for you to continue doing that work, because there are, I'm old as hell. It ain't about me, but there's generations on the come up right now that need to hear this message that you're putting, and the fact that you also put in there this activist element, this element of challenging what the government does and all of these kind of things. It's amazing, man. I really do think that it's an important message that you're putting out into the digital universe. So thank you for that, brother.
Absolutely. And one other thing I really appreciate about the work that you do is something that I saw first with Senor Edison, and that was like the mini history lessons, right? So you did something very interesting with talking about the relationships between Puerto Rico and Colombia and Honduras and all the different political alliances that formed years ago that are not spoken about today. So that's another reason why I would tell people to watch you is you get a lot of historical context out of that. You joined us a little bit late in the game. We had all our assets already created and whatever, but tell us where you can go. I know that if they go to your Instagram account, that's the most important thing. You have a fundraiser on there on every single live.
Right.
I think you're up to 48,000 last time I checked.
Right.
So great job in a week. 48,000 is nothing to sneeze at. A lot of people are jumping on and doing the same. I'll definitely do one before the week is out to talk about it to make up for the fact that I don't have your barcode right now. But yeah, mipatria.org is the organization. What's the website?
Mipatria.org. That's the website. Mipatria.org.
So there's two ways. So there's mipatria.org. You go to the website directly, or you through Instagram, using Apple Pay or whatever it is you have attached to your Instagram account, you could actually give money directly through the Instagram platform.
Yes.
And from what I understand, just talking to some of the folks in Instagram, they have waived all the fees that used to be associated with raising funds. So they're waiving that for another year, so that all the money that you're collecting for Mi Patria actually goes to the cause. So really, really dope. Somebody in the comment section is saying your last video about Luma, that was fire. I thought the video about the newcomer that went back home. He went back home to avoid the storm. Those are all interested. Dude, again, we have to move on because we have a lot of other speakers to come on. But thank you for what you're doing. It's important. I hope that aside from the work that you're doing, that people are filling your cup as well. I hope that I heard a couple of gestures of solidarity that you gotten from people like Crazy Legs, and just offering a place to stay with you and stuff like that. So I hope that community support continues and that you get as much as you give. So thank you.
That means a lot coming from you guys. Represent New York.
Absolutely. Oh damn, he's gone. Oh damn. Perdona. I don't know what happened there. But Dean, dope. At Dean Huerta. Oh no, I'm sorry. Huertas Dean is his Instagram. And then his TikTok is Dean Huertas. The next person that's coming up, otra hermana mía, like somebody who I love dearly. I've worked with her. I've broke bread with her. I've worked for her. We're friends at the end of the day, like first and foremost. She's been a Capicu contributor for many years. She's also worked for Sofrito Media Group as a correspondent at the parade. Uh, Nancy Ruffin. Nancy, how are you? Oh, your audio. Tu audio. I know you got this.
I was on mute. But I'm good. You guys got me up past my bedtime, but I'll do anything for you all.
We definitely appreciate it. We definitely appreciate it. You were here with us 5 years ago. We went through this together. We went through the supporting drives to raising money at different events to doing the parade and actually really trying to impact things from a conscious level. You're not a trained journalist, but nobody would know that if they saw you in action.
Listen,
Um,
when you believe when you have a passion for something, the training I think comes from the experience.
yeah.
And so that's just what I do. And I've been really lucky and blessed and fortunate to have people like you, like Papo, and just my community really rally behind me, and provide me with opportunities. And sometimes you got to create those for yourself. So
Absolutely. Well, we thank you for being here. You're involved in a lot of different organizations, including the ERGs at your job. Talk to me a little bit about what you're seeing on that side of things. It's one thing to talk about the grassroots, but there's a lot of stuff that happens on a corporate level. There's a lot of things that happen in organizations that are historically set up for us to succeed. That we're not seeing on the ground, but they still have a valuable role in what the recovery is like.
well, I work my day job. I work in healthcare. I work for the New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the corporate title, really what it is, we are the city's public hospitals, which make up 11 hospitals. Those include Bellevue, Metropolitan, Coney Island Hospital, Lincoln Hospital in the Bronx. I mean, so all of the public hospitals fall under New York City Health and Hospitals. And what I've been seeing on our end is more from the healthcare aspect. So we have sent, doctors, nurses over to the island, to care for for our people who are in need of healthcare services. I've been hearing and reading, that there have been lives lost because they haven't had the access, to certain medical services that they need. And it's real, it's real. And I know that it's easy to be disconnected from it when you're not in it or when you don't have family who's there. If it's just images on the TV, it's easy to change the channel and shut it off and not really give it any, second thoughts. But for people like us, for people who are really invested in our island, and those of us that still have, familia that's living there, it's real, and these are real concerns. People like you're not sleeping because you're worried about your relatives. If they're eating, if they have water, if another rain comes, and they don't have the infrastructure to kind of protect them from all of that. It's hard. It's hard. And for someone like me, I do all that I can from my space here, in New Jersey, whether it's through my platform, through my voice, showing up like this. I think that a lot of times we believe that we can't do anything because we're not physically there, but there's so much we can do even here. And this is just one of those ways that we can give back and spread awareness.
Absolutely. And I do want to take a moment to shout out Health and Hospitals. For those of you who may not know, I was a spokesperson for them during the COVID campaign. But the program, ironically, the day I signed the contract to do the campaign, I found out that I was COVID positive, right? And I ended up in one of the programs that I was supposed to champion. And literally, that program saved my life. which put me in a position to really tap into some of my resources and some of my celebrity friends and other folks, and to really put together a campaign that was meaningful, that respected the Latino community. Uh, it was dignifying, and most importantly, saved a lot of lives. Right. We won an award for it. Myself and my Talento team, we won with the Exposito and all the other people involved in the campaign. We won a bronze Telly Award. But the most interesting thing about that bronze award is that it's the third place, right? But everybody we competed against had a whole year to make impact. We got a bronze award in 6 weeks from ideation to execution. So big shout out to my team, for that. But Health and Hospitals always shows up for us, and and we already know FIFA, who we talked about earlier, who's part of Capiku's team. She works for you folks as well. She's a community engagement director over at Woodhull. This is what we need. We need people in every place to play their role, to do what you could do best, to really impact the situation from where you stand. Um,
And I just want to add, everybody has something to offer. Like whatever it is that you're great at, that's the thing that you can offer. And so if you're great at talking, talk people's head off until they get sick and tired of hearing, about what's happening. Because the more awareness we spread, the more eyes we get on this. And we know that when there's eyes, that is going to facilitate action, especially with government officials, with our politicians. We have to kind of hold them accountable, because New York City specifically has a large Puerto Rican demographic, right? And they're gonna need, the Puerto Ricans when it's election time. Like everything always comes back down, to those votes and to the political power that we hold, not just even here, in the States, but even on the island, when
Yeah.
we see all of the corruption that is happening there. I still remember the day that Rosello resigned, at the will of the people, because they were, persistent and they weren't letting up, and they made him resign. And that, for me, that really just solidified the power that we have. So for those of you who think that there's no power in your voice or in your vote, go Google what happened in Puerto Rico during that time, and let that be the proof that you need for how powerful we really are, especially when we come together.
Yeah, I mean, you said it all there. One of the other things, Nancy, the last thing I want to touch on, because we know that you have your corporate job and super successful. I've seen you in action. You're amazing doing what you do there. But you're also I would say kind of a spiritual guide to some people, and then there's another piece of you that you share with people. And I'm sure, just knowing some of the women that you touch, I know that there's a lot of people who are severely impacted by this. What is that work look like these days? Like what is when you have to come home from work and actually deal with that piece of it? What does that look like?
It's hard, especially when we see these natural disasters. And one of the things that we tend to ask, right, when we're faced with these really horrible things is like, well, where's God in the midst of this? Or why does God allow these things to happen? And sometimes when you're in the middle of it, when you're in it, it's really hard to stay faithful, because you start questioning those things. But what I want those to remember, if you're struggling with your faith right now, is that, while God is the ultimate creator, he created all of us also with free will. And our actions and the things that we do or don't do heavily influence our lives, right? So we can't stop natural disasters from happening, but how we respond is ultimately in our power. And if you need to hold on to hope, just remember that when we think about some of the most difficult things in our lives, if you're still here, you survived that. And the way that you survived that, you will survive this. And one thing I know about our people is that we are survivors and we're resilient because we've had no other choice but to do it. And when government officials don't show up, I froze a little bit there, right? When government officials don't show up, when our politicians, don't show up, when we have a president that's throwing paper towels at the people, right? When they don't take these things serious, we know that we can rely on our community and each other, to show up. So at the end of the day, we're all we got.
Absolutely.
Keep your eyes focused on God, because He is going to give you the strength that you need to endure.
Thank you so much. And on that note, I am going to highlight one particular organization that was one of the most influential in Maria recovery. Um, uh, from everything from really tying all the organizations, the smaller organizations together, to working collaboration. Their influence on the Maria Fund and where the money was going to go was impeccable. That's Taller Salud. Since you're a health champion in the community, I figured that Taller Salud would be the most interesting organization to link to you. Community-based feminist organization dedicated to improving women's access to healthcare, to reducing violence with the community, and to encourage economic growth through education and volunteers. Seeking temporary homes for rescued animals, as a first floor sanctuary where they were kept was destroyed by the storm. They also need volunteers to assist with rescue efforts. Items needed right now are non-perishable food items, disposable containers, toiletries, cutlery, solar lanterns, water filters, gas, adult and children's diapers, and pasta. I thought the pasta thing was interesting, but yeah. So that's an organization who I have a lot of respect for. Um, Unfortunately, because of what we're currently dealing with, those folks are super engaged in the community right now. They couldn't be here tonight, but we send them our best and hope that they continue to have the impact that they've been having for the last 5 years, and that they grow that influence on the island, because it's definitely needed. Nancy, thank you. Thank you for being here. I know what you had to go through today to get here and to be here with me, so I appreciate it.
Yes,
And I owe you lunch, dinner, something.
You don't owe me anything. You know that you call, I'm there. That's how it works.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Bye bye, guys. Mwah.
Lo quiero mucho.
I love you too.
So, Papa, we're gonna shift gears a little bit now, man. Hold on, let me.
What's up? What we doing?
So, one of the things that was the most memorable and perhaps the most traumatizing of Hurricane Maria for me, I'm speaking for myself now, was when I had to go land in Puerto Rico after my first trip, right? When I landed in the daytime and I got into San Juan, but obviously you have to fly over a portion of the west of the island to get there sometimes, depending on weather. And I got to Puerto Rico and I saw a sea of blue, but it wasn't the ocean. It was tarps. The tarps were very, and I think you remember, I called you a couple of times with tears in my eyes, like, yo, this is crazy. It's like, and even months later, years later, even you could still see tarps, right?
Yep.
So there's an organization that I recently learned about, that's doing the work when it comes to that, right? To making sure that that folks have a roof over their head, which is one of the most like basic things that we need in our life, right? Whether it's a freaking cave or a house or a teepee or whatever it is, we need to have some type of shelter to protect us from the elements. So I want to invite David de Sevilla to join us. This is my first time actually meeting him. How you doing, David?
Very good. How are you, George?
Wait a minute. I'm okay. So there's two Davids. All right. So I'm sorry. I take all of that back. Hechos para mi gente is super important, and we're gonna get to them. But this is actually David de Sevilla, from the Centro de Emprendedores. I apologize. You have no idea how many new people I've met in the last 3 days. So I apologize. I had to mess up somehow, right, Papo? I mean, it happens.
Well,
but on that note, like we said in the beginning of the broadcast, there's a lot of different needs, right? And one of the needs is our small businesses, right? Our small businesses need to stay open in order for them to serve the community, when they're needed. And that's the kind of work you do. That's what you do. You have everything from small business programs, you have accelerators, you teach business owners how to be more effective in their space. So let's talk a little bit about what Hurricane Fiona work looks like now that you are in the middle of this crisis.
Of course, yes. First of all, I want to thank you, George, Pablo, Lala, for everything that you're doing. This is great work, really. So I want to thank you very much and appreciate what everything that you're doing. I have to definitely take my hat off. I want to give you some statistics. We a little bit of a background. Centro para Emprendedores works with small and medium entrepreneurs from the first thought that anyone has of becoming an entrepreneur. And if you already have a business, we help you out on your journey. And we've been polling our participants. We have been already 10 years working in Puerto Rico with entrepreneurs. And from the polls that we get after Fiona, we have been able to poll over 250 entrepreneurs. There are more polls from different organizations, and everything points out to these numbers. Over half, our numbers are 56% of small businesses in Puerto Rico are not have not been able to reopen since Hurricane Fiona. So that's a pretty big number. We all know that if those entrepreneurs are not working, they are not providing for their family, and they are not providing services and products for their clientele, for the people they serve. So that's a big problem. And small and medium businesses are actually a very big motor for the local economy. So that's a big problem. But there's also a light to shine because we know the numbers, we know the data. We have a program that's called Negocio SOS, Business SOS, and our program helps these entrepreneurs get back on their feet. We learn about what their needs are. We assess with the entrepreneurs one-on-one what their needs are, what it looks like. We prepare programs for them, and we have then meetings one-to-one with them, with different partners that we can find. We have a lot of partners here in the island, but we're looking for more partners to be able to give these entrepreneurs cash grants. And these cash grants are a very important part of the Negocio SOS structure, because the entrepreneurs know exactly what is their immediate need and how and when they need and where they need to spend that money on those exact needs. And the money that is needed is not a lot, between $3,000 and $8,000 per business is what it takes to kickstart these businesses back again and have these entrepreneurs back in their feet. And there's a very interesting number. FEMA numbers say that businesses that after a crisis and after 10 months of the crisis, around 40% of these businesses stay open. And with Negocios SOS, Business SOS program, we have found that after 10 months and after catastrophic events, over 93% of the businesses stay open. So we're definitely doing something right. And this is what we want to broadcast, that we can actually help these entrepreneurs. So far, we have activated Business SOS after Maria and Irma, after the earthquakes of 2019 and after the pandemic. We have already supported over 570 businesses, and given only in 2018, after Maria, we had given 828 hours of technical assistance to these entrepreneurs. So there are programs down here. We have data from entrepreneurs all over the island. We have numbers. There are a lot of partner organizations that are working in hand with us to help these small entrepreneurs and get them back on their feet. So that's the word that we want to get out there, that there are organizations doing the work in the field. And with your help, we can actually help these entrepreneurs get back on their feet, kickstart the economy, kickstart these families of these entrepreneurs, and help out every Puerto Rican that needs the services and products that these guys need.
All right, man. That sounds great. I will be on the island next month, and I will coordinate with you because I would love to come down and meet some of the business owners, and provide some, some help in some way. So let's talk about it offline, okay? I do apologize. We don't have the barcode for you, but if you could just share the website and your Instagram socials.
Sure thing. if you type Centro para Emprendedores, translate to Center for Entrepreneurs, but if you type Centro para Emprendedores, you can find us in our website, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. It's going to be pretty hard to find us if you just type Centro para Emprendedores. And George, actually, I was late to the transmission because I was giving a workshop for some participants, actually. But as soon as I came up, you were talking about the Act 60s. And I have to tell you, I was laughing because since we work with entrepreneurs, one of the things that happened to us that actually an Act 60 called me to help him, because we work with entrepreneurs, help him set up his own nonprofit so he could actually fund his nonprofit with the money that he needs to spend. And it was pretty funny that as soon as I came in the show, you were talking about that.
Yeah,
I
no,
had
that's a problem. I there's a particular community that I'm gonna talk about. It's not the venue to talk about it, but one particular community that that these folks are from outside, and they're sending all their Act 60 money to this nonprofit, and they're changing street names. They're giving each other generators. They're doing stuff that makes sense for them, but there's a surrounding community that of natives that are there that are not getting the same attention. And then the worst part about it is that the organization that partners with them, and they're both funded by a big nonprofit that is not too favorable on the island, but their only contribution to the Puerto Rican community in that particular place is to give them mosquito nets, and they have almost $500,000 in their account. And then the other organization that partners with them did a video 2 days ago when I have talked to multiple elders and people who are struggling, and they say, everything's okay in Vieques. You guys don't need to come here. We're good. We're good. And then it raises the question, Papa, what we talk about all the time, like is this their way of getting the island without Puerto Ricans, right? Is this how they inspire the exodus, right? Is to make people completely hopeless. So unfortunately, I can't have the young lady on tonight because she's literally dealing with something very serious over there, on the on the island. But I will be sharing through Sofrito for Your Soul and other vehicles that we have to get information out more about that when the time is right, because we can't allow that. I don't know how we hold them accountable. I don't know what it is. Do we contact the funder and tell the funder, hey, listen, you can't fund this organization? I don't know what it is, but we got to figure it out. And maybe David, you could help with that.
Yeah, definitely. When you come out to the island, let me know, and we'll sit down and talk.
Hablamos. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
So yeah, there you have it. Centro para Emprendedores. It's so weird. I have like 2 more Davids on hold, right? I have that amazing intro I just did a minute ago or a couple of minutes ago was actually intended for David de Jesus, who I believe is the right person. And if he's not, I quit. All right, Papa, you're gonna have to take over. David de Jesus, before I go into anything, because you probably weren't here to see this version of comedy that we've had here tonight.
Yeah.
I had 3 Davids back to back.
Right.
I had David de Sevilla from the Centro de Emprendedores. I have you, and then I have David from Puerto Rican Flags Up that's on hold as well. But I gave a great intro, and I'm gonna have to to whatever. But I talked about the sea of blue that I saw when I returned to Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria, and what that meant to me. How that affected me during the time. And your organization really satisfies that need in the community, right? It's Techos Pa Mi Gente.
Yes.
So give us a little background. It's a new organization to me. I've heard of you, whatever, but my conversations with you and some of your colleagues at the organization were the first time that I'm ever really talking to you. So I would like to know more, and I'm sure our audience would as well.
Sure. And thanks for the opportunity to be part of this amazing broadcast. It's been very informative and of great value, I'm sure, for all the community here in Puerto Rico as to the folks outside. So very grateful for the chance of being here and talk a little bit about what we're doing and how our organization is helping rebuild Puerto Rico, right? So to give you a little background, it started as a grassroots organization, right? A couple of neighbors during Maria They were concerned about the lack of government um, ability to help and help out folks that had no roof, no as you know, a lot of people were after Maria, they lost their roofs, their homes, right? So as you saw, those tarps, they were all over the island. So we had no way of distributing those tarps to people. So a group of neighbors got together and they said, look, bring us the tarps and we'll do that for the government. We'll take care of the people, right? So our founding members, in which we have the executive director, Amarilis Gonzalez, right? She took care of that, and through Facebook and the little bit of technology we had at that time, of course, it was very intense at the beginning. So we started receiving those tarps in the at their homes, and then they took charge and went to build those tarps and help people with the tarps, and that's how the organization developed through that request, right, of taking charge of what the lack of government efforts were doing for the people in Puerto Rico. So that's how it began, right? We started putting tarps for people, and then we understood that it was not enough. We needed to do more, right? So then we went into building roofs for people. I think if you empower a home with a secure home, it gives a sort of independence to that family, right? It's not the same thing as providing them with relief aid. I mean, food and other stuff. When they have a secure home, they start to rebuild in a different way. They have something concrete to build upon and develop from there. So that is our main goal, is to not only build roofs, right, but build entire families and communities and empower them, with a safe place to live in, and a place they deserve, as basic human rights for everyone. So that's how the organization started, right? They were doing they put this call out for people to provide tarps, and then we organized. I joined the organization in 2017. My house, as you could see now, was also flooded at that time. So I can understand some of the process that our fellow Puerto Ricans are going through at these hard times in Puerto Rico.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pablo, you had something?
No, I think David, you said something there that it was really important for me as a community engagement person. And you said that, you're not just building tarps, right?
Yeah.
You're helping and you're building up families as well. And I think that people need to understand the relationship between our needs, our material needs, and our actual physical and spiritual needs as well. So thinking about that work, so many folks that we hear from on the island, in the diaspora, if you haven't been on the ground here, it's mind-boggling to think about. You cover one thing and there's 10 other things that can spring up, right? You have the roof, but you don't have the water, right? You have the water, you don't have the electricity. There's so many things, but safety and shelter is a primary concern for all human beings. So I want to thank you for that work.
Yes, it is. It's a very hard work, and also, after a disaster like Maria and Fiona, we have different phases to the relief. Right, we're in the rescue and providing relief to people. Our organization comes in the second phase. It's rebuilding. Right, once that danger is taken care of, right, that those first basic needs, then we try to rebuild their homes, their life structures, and you can see, once you're in the ground working with people, you're building the roofs, you see the change in their spirit, in their minds. It's a transformation that only if you're there you could understand. They're grateful when they receive like the basic needs, but when they have a roof, it's like something real. They could really start their lives from there on.
Yeah.
So it's been an incredible learning process to all the members, to the volunteers that we have. Not only because we can give, but we also receive from those individuals that we help with their blessings, with their attitudes, with their knowledge. It's been an incredible process to be part of the organization, and also the work we're doing through communities and how they're you know, as you've talked in with different of your guests, I think it's been amazing. We cannot rely on the government. We need to rely on ourselves and our people, right? And I think that's what really matters. That's the core of being Puerto Rican, right? That we have to rebuild those communities with our own efforts. It's been proven that, like they say, colonialism, it's a big problem in Puerto Rico since we have the Jones Act, right? They gave citizens to Puerto Rico. We cannot even have, we need to use their vessels, right? That's a big problem for Puerto Rico. We cannot even receive aid from other countries if it's not through the United States. So it's an incredible part of the political dilemma that we have in Puerto Rico. But taking that aside, we have humans, we have people, we have Puerto Ricans not only here, but like you said, in the diaspora that are trying to rebuild us. And I think that is what matters. And that's what is really going to empower all Puerto Ricans, and not only a house, but the entire island, and also the Puerto Ricans that are outside the island that are as family, like you were saying.
Yep. There's two things I want to highlight before we
Sure.
call it a night here with you. One of the things is I want to appreciate the fact that you've been able to tap on something we talked about earlier, which is allyship. I saw a video
Mhm.
that's a little bit too long for tonight's broadcast, but I will share it to my platform on another venue. But you've been able to tap into people who are not Puerto Rican who want to come and
Yes.
impact the island from a selfless place. And
Mhm.
what I like about what I like about the people who are coming to Puerto Rico for you specifically is they're not coming here as white saviors. They're not coming here with a sense of, I don't know, like they own the place, or they're helping people who don't have dignity. It was very interesting to hear them tell their stories, and I'm sure that is something similar to what we would see at a Habitat for Humanity, for example. That similar dynamic. So I commend you for tapping into that resource, that very necessary resource. And the last thing I want to ask you is, because we know with everything else that we're donating and everything else that we collect as far as como se dice, provisions that we give to the
Yeah.
island. But what I don't know is how much does a roof cost? Like
Yes.
if somebody wanted to sponsor a roof, like what does that cost?
And I wanted to talk about that, and I'm glad you did. Before, at the beginning of when we started our this endeavor, right, the materials were a lot cheaper. It took from $7,000 to $10,000 to build a roof. Now it's around 15,000 to build a roof. So donations are really important for us because we need to get access and tap to those sources, right? Like you said, we received help and we bridged out to other communities, faith-based communities, and all sorts of communities, not in only in Puerto Rico but outside. Those donors are very important for us because the materials, right, that we use, it's the core of our vision, right, of our mission. So it's roughly about 15,000 to build a roof, and I mean a wooden roof, right? This is not cement or concrete. Even though the roofs we built were following the guidelines from the College of Engineering of Puerto Rico. And during Fiona, the roofs that we built, we called the people, we were in touch with the people we built roofs, and they say they were stable homes yet. So that means the work we're doing, it's following guidelines that this participants, and um, it guarantees, that they're safe, and that it also represents the work that we do. So yeah, it's very important, those donations, because it's very hard to build the roofs. And not only in terms of hands, we need more hands to have people. We're also doing workshops, training people on how to build, safety requirements. So we train them as they become our volunteers, and it's a incredible experience that we could do all those different phases of the job and the work we're trying to do here in Puerto Rico.
So here's my challenge to
Yeah.
the people listening right now. We're about to put the barcode up. But what I would challenge is, I know a lot of event coordinators, I know a lot of club promoters, I know a lot of people who do poetry events and art exhibits. Can you imagine if New York City, I'm just going to use New York
Yeah.
City as an example, if each borough did an event to raise $15,000, we could actually buy 5 roofs off this event here. We could organize. I know Capicu is down. We're 100% down for this. I know my partners in Miami are down. Think about that. Think about getting a collective together and being able to say that the Bronx bought a roof for somebody in Puerto Rico, that Brooklyn bought a roof for somebody in Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
So
that would
to challenge people. Anybody wants to email me on this, Lala, can you put your email address up so that they could connect with us and see if we can get this collaboration going? Because this is something specifically, because I've been in houses that are open air. I watched the Nosotros Nos Tenemos, the movie by the Fantuzzi brothers,
yeah.
and how they rebuilt that whole community. And that's one of the things that really, honestly, aside from food and water, the basic necessities, is the one thing that breaks my heart the most, is to see people living in a situation where the house is open to the sky.
Yeah.
So that's something that I really that I'm moved to actually do. I would love to see a 5-borough movement to put 5 roofs in Puerto Rico, and we'll start there and see what happens.
That would be amazing. And we work and collaborate with different, sponsors and artists. We have artists, helping out doing artwork in our center in San Juan, also receiving donations from them. So yeah, that would be amazing. I also have, my family comes from Brooklyn, from Bushwick and Aberdeen. We had a family there for a long time. So it would be amazing to have that bridge of, family members, my own history of Boricuas in New York, my mom, so that would be really nice.
And one last thing, Capicu counts with some of the best artists in New York City. We have so many very talented artists. A lot of them, you've seen their work in Arecibo. Our Culture NYC has been all over Puerto Rico, but especially in like Isabela and Arecibo. They've done amazing work over the years, and I'm sure that that would be something that they would definitely get into. So we'll talk more about that offline. But I would love personally to lead a charge where Brooklyn buys a roof.
That would be amazing, and you're also welcome anytime you want to put hands on and help us build a bridge and be part of it, and we could record that and make something really nice.
That might be a little challenging. I'm like the most not. I'm not.
We got training. Let me tell you, we got training. We have workshops, and listen, sometimes just passing over tools and just giving some water to the workers, being part, talking to people, supporting people that are with the families there that they need moral support. You don't have to go up the roof. You know what I'm saying? Just be there with us. Help us out in what you can. It would be amazing to have you here, and all the people that want to come from the diaspora would be, really cool.
Thank you so much, David. I appreciate your time. I appreciate what you do. You're honestly, I mean, I know a lot of the organizations that we talked about tonight, but out of the organizations I'm just meeting for the first time, it touches my heart personally, what you do. So we'll be definitely in touch, and we'll talk. So I want to put the barcode up so you folks can look at that logo though.
Yeah.
Papa, you see that?
Yeah, man, that's dope, man. Look at that.
If that logo doesn't speak to you, you don't have a heart, man.
Yeah, the logos were done by one of our volunteers, and I also wanted to say that you could go to our webpage. We also are sponsoring a 5K in November. It could be a virtual run, and also people doing the physical run. So if you could visit the page and see, what's up in the details, it would be good also to participate in that event.
Thank you so much, David. We appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time. I know
Thank
that
you guys. I really appreciate your time and the exposure that you give us. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Papa, man, that.
Yeah, that was
That's
so important, man. Yeah.
So it seems like there's some folks that haven't been able to make it on. I've been, if you see me looking away, it's because I'm actually texting people and trying to figure out. There's a lot of still power issues on the island, but I do have the pleasure of introducing another guest. She reached out. Actually, the funny thing is, I actually tweeted her. I'm gonna tell the story, Dr. Karen. I'm gonna talk about this. I actually tweeted her in 2012 when she first started following me, and I said, "Hey, I would love to learn more about what you do." The regular Twitter response, right? And she got back to me almost 10 years to the day. of that
Through Twitter, but we've been in
through
contact through
Twitter.
Facebook.
But in all fairness, I'm gonna be fair. I'm gonna be fair. She does connect with me on other platforms, but we never really had a conversation. But I see her likes, I see her comments, I see her shares, and vice versa. I share some of her stuff as well. But I thought it was funny when she
Me
reached out
too.
to me, and I'm like, 10 years, really? Like, mama, like, ¿qué
Qué
pasó?
bochinche.
What
Un
you
Wow.
pinche tremendo.
But
10 años más tarde.
she's one of the late additions to this program. I just literally we talked earlier this afternoon briefly, and she sent me some information to review so we could vet it the way we vetted everybody else today. And again, another organization that's doing very impactful work. One of the things I will say about your organization that really, for somebody who's actually reviewed annual reports and went through taxes for the organizations that are bigger, I have to say that you really got it together. So thank you. That's the first thing I'll say, right? So Puerto Rico Rise Up. Tell us about it. What are you doing? What are you working on?
Yes, first of all, thank you, George, for this opportunity, and thank you, Papo. This is amazing for us. So let me give you a little bit of background about us. Puerto Rico Rise Up, we are a nonprofit organization that was as a response to Hurricane Maria 5 years ago. We were like you, we were anxious, we were desperate, we were angry, and we put that into action, right? And we distributed many generators, basic necessities, food, and it was a group formed. It is a group formed by healthcare professionals mostly, and it started by them identifying the needs in the island and finding medication, and then we had groups to distribute it and health clinics. So unlike other organizations that were born during that time, we have continued supporting with the recovery efforts, right? And so we are a nonprofit, mostly by volunteers. So we all have our careers. I'm a clinical psychologist in New York City. And we are doing this, first of all, because we are committed with the island. We love our island, and we want to be part of this process. Personally, for me, being in an organization and being the director of the organization for these years, it's been part of my own process as someone that migrated to New York City 20 years ago. So now I'm here in the diaspora, but with this platform, I can really impact the life of people in my island. So for me, it's como una carta de amor. It's like a love letter to the island. So throughout these years, we have developed connections with multiple, community leaders. As someone that, even though I travel to Puerto Rico often, but I don't live there, I strongly believe that we have to be informed by our community leaders in Puerto Rico. We should not dictate what are their needs. We should hear from them. So throughout this time, we have really developed relationship with them and to really understand what are their priorities. Based on that, then we have responded as an organization. And we have been part, of course, of the multiple disasters that have occurred since Maria, the earthquakes, COVID, and now Fiona. So we have distributed basic necessities. We have distributed during COVID, we distributed almost 400,000 food boxes to multiple communities in the island. Right now, for Fiona, we are focusing on food security. So we have already impacted different towns like Guanica, Utuado, Ponce, Yauco, Adjuntas, and all this information, you could see it on our website, with food boxes. And today we actually distributed 300 warm meals for students in UPR Mayagüez. And tomorrow is for San Germán, the elderly community. So we're doing this as volunteers. So we are a small nonprofit organization. We do not receive money from the government. So donations are really, really important because whatever we use, it goes back to the communities. And George was able to review everything, so he could tell you that it's true. So this platform gives us the opportunity to amplify, right? What are we doing and what is the help that we need? I think that donations it is the most important thing, because the money that we use, we are supporting also local companies in Puerto Rico, buying their products. Last year, because, that's what we have to do to boost the economy, right? So last year, before all this, we deliver many food boxes. We hire an agriculture in Puerto Rico, and then deliver that to multiple communities. Last year, before this, we also built a few community gardens, so people learn about nutrition and kits, and then they can have their own spaces, so they don't have to depend, right? So that's what we're doing, and for me and for everyone in our team, obviously we're doing this because we're committed, because we want to do it, and because it's a bridge for us also, being here, and we serve as a bridge for others that are in the diaspora. And they trust our organization. They see the work that we have been doing for the past 5 years. And it's just amazing to hear the stories, right? When you are here, you really, and I say this because I travel, and obviously I have participated in multiple, initiatives. But when you are not in Puerto Rico, sometimes you are not aware of, the struggle, because it's hard to you have to live through it, like you were mentioning before. Yeah. And by meeting community leaders, understanding what are their needs, and using that to inform how and why, right, we're impacting certain communities, I think that that's very important. And that's what we do, and we are looking forward to continue receiving support, so we can continue supporting communities in la isla del encanto, nuestra isla.
I appreciate you so much, Dr. Karen. Thank you for being here tonight. I know it was a little bit of a hustle to make it work.
Está bien.
Agradezco mucho for being here. I want to share your barcode that we have. And can we give a shout out to, can we really give it up for Lala, man? Like, Lala, she's a bomb, man. She just, let me tell you something. Esa mujer ha trabajado toda la noche, right in the middle of preparing for the hurricane that's hitting Orlando right now. She's still here with us now. She's keeping everybody informed and sharing links and everything. Lala, you're invaluable. I love you so much. You're just such a treasure to have around. You're hardworking and committed, so I appreciate that. So here's Puerto Rico Rise Up's barcode. Again, if you want to see more on the website's super informative. It has a lot of information. Like I said before, this was a latecomer, but I spent a good portion of yesterday looking at the annual reports and everything, because I committed to you folks to make sure that I was going to look at every organization with a fine tooth comb, especially because of some of the stuff I discovered early on in the process. So I thank you for working with integrity, and for doing what you do. I don't know if you do, and maybe you could enlighten me, but if you don't, I would like to see more collaboration with the comedores sociales. I would like to see, you guys really get together and figure out how you could leverage, the project,
Mm-hmm.
how you could leverage the and spread the work, and kind of like work, because they're reaching places that a lot of big nonprofits aren't.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to see that. That's just my personal observation, and this is coming from somebody who, like, the first 2 or 3 months of Maria, I literally spent the time in the mountains, feeding people and haciendo sopa y de todo. So I would like to see that in the future. Has that happened?
Um, not it's not happening right now. We have collaborated with multiple organizations throughout these 5 years. But no, I don't think we have. No.
Yeah, so that's the one thing. I mean, when we have these conversations about nonprofits and what
Mm-hmm.
they're not doing, there's a lot of shiny organizations that have beautiful websites and they have gorgeous annual reports that have some things hidden in them or whatever. um and people don't trust institutions because of what we've seen in the past, right?
Yeah.
You're in a very interesting place where you're operating with integrity, from what I can see, from where I'm looking. But you look like a lot of those organizations from the exterior. The optics are interesting,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I think that you building bridges with these organizations and showing them that you could operate with integrity and help them. And one of the things, and me and Papa talk about this all the time, is that one of the things that really kind of gets me, and the funny thing is that this is what I do for a living. I brand for a living. I work for brands. I create campaigns, and I rally behind a cause or a particular product, right? But I don't like to see that when it comes to community. I don't like
Mm-hmm.
branding in community, and it's hard. I talked to Dean specifically because he's one of the guys that I've seen out there that's a social media star. I mean, realistically, he reaches millions of people with his videos, but he's doing the right thing. And there's so many people, I can't even tell you. There's people who I reached out to, and they were just like, "Oh yeah, they were like kind of backing up." And they backing up because they don't want to be associated with anybody else that has equal stature or greater stature than them. They want all the glory. They want to go out there. I saw one guy like running through the storm with his hair loose, and he's like, "Oh my God, yeah, I'm out here helping the people," and and it's funny to see, from a comedic perspective, right? Me and Papa laugh at really dark stuff all the time, but when it comes to our people and when it comes to helping people, we shouldn't steal dignity. We shouldn't rob
Mm-hmm.
dignity. We shouldn't be putting them up. One of the things that I was very clear when I went to Hurricane Maria, we documented. We did have a film crew with us because we wanted to show what it was from a filmmaker perspective. But one thing I did not do, and I was very, very intentional with this, was I did not share any images of destruction and mayhem in Puerto Rico. I told stories. I told people what I was experiencing. I cried
Mm-hmm.
on camera. We were starving one day. We were starving after feeding people because we didn't eat, and we were driving up the road, and there was a man just randomly making soup on the side of the road in the middle of like Jauco. And we got out of the car, and he was just like, so we were hungry, so we were like, yeah, we will all take soup. And then we tried to pay him, and he was like, no, 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 este no es tiempo para eso. And that touched me because it's like he's going through it too. He probably don't even have the money to buy another chicken for the next soup, but he
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't take money from us. He wouldn't take the money from us, and we ended up leaving it anyway. But it was just so touching that people are so giving even when they don't have, and that's one thing that Puerto Ricans have that I haven't experienced anywhere else in the world is our spirit of giving. So thank you again. I appreciate you being here once again. Mi gente, it is Puerto Rico Rise Up.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much.
And
We'll
thank
be
you
in
for
touch.
putting this together. Yes. Thank you.
I
Good
appreciate
night.
you.
Bye.
Man, Papo.
Yeah, man. It's
I knew this was going to be semi-heavy. Like, we expect a certain level of heaviness with this, but it's like a roller coaster. It's like joy to see certain things happening, and then despair because some people are not working together, and then a little bit more joy to see somebody doing something different and innovative. It's a roller coaster, man.
It is.
We're going to be wrapping up soon. There's a couple of things I want to do. I want to talk to David from Puerto Rican Flags Up because he's been such a big resource for me the last couple of days, and I'm not surprised. He's always been this giving. I met David years ago as part of the Porto Familia initiative that we used to do with the Diabetes Association. Both David and I both are diabetic, so we bonded on that. I want to bring him in here, and then after that, I want to talk about one individual person who is making a difference in her own space. She doesn't have a nonprofit. She's not a 501c3, but I've seen her do her work. I know the organization that she's a part of, her sorority, and I know what kind of integrity they have. And I just been building with her. Her name is also Bianca. And I want to share a small video about what she saw in Utuado yesterday with you folks, and then show you what she's trying to do. But first, let's bring my boy David in here from PR Flags Up. What's up, Papi? Can you
What's
do me a
going
favor?
on?
Sideways? Because I don't like that. No me gusta la cámara flaca. Turn it sideways.
It's turned?
Yeah, it should. No? You got it locked? All right, don't worry about it. Cool.
I'm bugging out.
That's all right. Don't worry about it.
I'm watching it like regular.
It's all right. Don't worry about it, man. So David, I gave a little brief background of our history. We always see each other in community circles.
Always.
We never actually had an opportunity to have a drink or eat lunch or do something that's not related to community. Every year we find ourselves in a space where we're doing something for somebody. But we never broke bread, so to speak. So we're gonna have to work on that, right?
Yes, we definitely do. First of all, I want to thank both you guys, man, because while I'm watching here, while I'm in the back in the waiting area watching, it's amazing because one of my biggest things that I am so adamant about and I have a passion is that I'm trying to help people unravel that part in their brain that there's only room for one Boricua or one Boricua organization. It's a real state of mind that is just so hurtful for our own people. And so I try to lead by example because even certain people that have come to me last second for even things for like the Puerto Rican Day Parade, where I'm gonna say the names because I don't sugarcoat anything. So Team Puerto Rico, they have blocked me for I don't know for whatever reason. They probably thought I don't know. We don't know each other at this point, right? But they found out that I was doing the parade. So the kid, I say he's a kid because he's younger than me. I'm 52, but he hits me out of nowhere like 2 weeks before, and I could have been the type of person to be like, why am I even gonna entertain this? Because he blocked me and all that. But to me, the most important thing was that I was able to connect with him and to show him. I gave him an open invitation to come to the parade with me. And he came and he witnessed the festival, the parade. And I showed him that the unity is the more important thing than any of us. We should never be in competition. Just because we're sharing kind of similar posts, it doesn't mean that there's only one spot for one of us. And I think the beauty of what I've just been witnessing in the last couple of minutes here and the different organizations, which you guys are doing something like this right here, it's like my dream that if we was to have like a coalition or you remember like the Five Family Mafia back in the days, right? If we have a commission where all these organizations that we know are on the ground doing the real work because we can't count on the government, we can't count on these big nonprofits, right? So if we gather them together in a form of a union, and so everybody could cover areas, but that's one part, right? But to help get them fully funded. So when there's an actual disaster, we have people there that are going to take flight and action right off the rip. And that have the money to do so, and also the resources. So like machinery, stuff that's already, like, we know we're gonna always need solar lamps, right?
Yeah.
Stuff that's already stocked up, waiting there for these things to happen. So thank you to you guys for putting something like this together, because this is kind of different, because I've done, I was yesterday at Crazy Legs fundraiser. I helped him. This is how I am. I'm on the background, bro. I helped with my connection in Channel One News, Trevor Wills and them. They found out I was there. They asked me. I said, yeah, bring somebody, and I directed them to Crazy Legs. And the interview you saw on News One, it was him. It wasn't my time to be there. You know what I'm saying? In the camera. That's not, people got to learn how to play their positions. And that's the problem. A lot of people don't,
There. So the commission now has 2 members, right? It has Capicu and it has PR Flags Up.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Yo,
right
Papa, I'm gonna need that banner in the background though.
I got you, bro. But David, to your point, man, let me just real quickly say this, because it's something that I really believe in. I've been working in El Barrio on something called asset-based community development. It's not a motto I developed, it's something I learned. But to your point, when we come together, us, right, and we pool our resources, because you have resources, I have resources, George has resources, and everybody we just saw has a million resources. When we share our gifts, our passions, our talents, our knowledge, we can have community-driven responses. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we've been seeing all through the night. And those responses help us break reliance on the external institutions, right? And in their place, we lift each other up as members of the shared community of Borinquen. So I'm glad I'm glad that you saw it the way that you saw it, because that's exactly where we need to see it. And us as the emergent elders of this thing, what you did, the example you just gave, that's what folks need to be doing. Instead of like worrying about your corner and like, yo, I don't want anybody on this here corner. Yo, let's all share, right? We're all part of the same dynamic.
Right. Yo, let me tell you something. If you look at some of the vintage Capicu flyers, we would have 20, 30 organizations on a flyer for Pal Pueblo. Like, that shit was crazy. Like, we would have banners everywhere in the freaking venue. We would all stand there with the toys and whatever. It's beautiful. And
the only time I got pissed at y'all was when y'all had Bad Bunny in front of us in the parade.
Why you want to talk about that, bro?
I'm only joking.
So we don't.
But George, I want to say this, right? Because from what we learned from Maria, right? Because Maria, I was in Puerto Rico 2 months before Maria hit, and I hadn't been in Puerto Rico at that point in 19 years.
Wow.
So I took my wife because she'd never been there. And when I went there, I was like, babe, look at this. And we went there. I got so much family all over the island, George. It's crazy, right? I could stay in family's house. I don't have to pay no hotel, like everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But we went to Culebra Island, and I never thought I'd be in Culebra, bro. Never. I went there, and it was the most amazing. I felt like Tom Hanks in Castaway, where there was nobody there on the beach, and I was just there with a little Wilson ball, right? But when I left, when we was on the plane taking off, and you see the shoreline, my tears came out, because I felt like I'm leaving where I'm supposed to be, where I'm supposed to be, even though I got my life here. But it was just a hurtful feeling, right? And so 2 months later, Hurricane Maria hit. And then I never been part of a disaster relief. So we did a bunch of fundraisers here. We sent 3 containers. They got to where they went. We did a bunch of stuff. But I wasn't able to go because, first of all, I knew that the most powerful thing that I could do is be here and direct resources and connect people. And so that led fast forward to what we're doing now. Raymond Collazo from Mi Patria, right? We've been together for the last 3 years. So this is not that I just popped up with them. So I'm on their board, and I know the integrity of this man and his family and the people that started this organization. So when this happened, I knew that it was the opportune time to focus on donations because people donate when there's emotions. So we almost got it to 50,000. So I could have been in Puerto Rico trying to be the hero. We're better served where you are your strongest at. So I'm strongest being here, organizing everybody that's focused on the fundraiser because that money, they're not gonna get it to like a month or something later, but that money's gonna be there to continue. When that first round of money that they got is gonna continue the missions. And so we bring in Dean to document some of it because there's gotta be a social media presence on it. So Dean is which Dean loves helping anyway, but they adopted Dean over there. So they love him. And the beauty of it is seeing that the things are getting to the people. Like they took these mattresses to Añasco, Barrio Playa. It was really ravaged hard. And then now I say that to tell you this, right? So I'm focused on mi patria, right? But that's just not what I'm going to be focusing on because I know other organizations. So I see that Jibarito with Troops is going, so I'm supporting them. I'm trying to go on their live. I'm trying to show them because I'm telling them, you could donate to these people too because these are the people that are really doing the work. And I just want to commend you guys for putting that together because if we have like a monthly or bi-monthly sort of a roundabout meeting, roundtable meeting through Zoom or something, and everybody could share information and share resources. And also, I know, George, you're great at this, bro. If we could tap into large foundations that could fully fund a lot of these organizations, that's what they need. They need the money. You know what I'm saying? Like Techo's, the guy from Techo's, another David Salute. Imagine one of these large foundations, Ford Foundation, one of these people go, here's $3 million. Go do your work. And they got it. They'll just cut the check.
Yeah. So there's one thing I want to leave you with because we do have to wrap up, and I want to there's a special video that I want to play that is Rebecca's last video at the Puerto Rican Day Parade, and one of the most beautiful pieces of work that I've seen her put out about our pride and whatnot.
Which Rebecca Huffman?
Hitana, the one that was
on. Hitana, okay.
So one of the things I want to leave you with, David, because you have so much influence. You're a big brother to a lot of these young influencers that you're working with now. You have to impress upon them to make sure they're doing the work with dignity. That they're not embarrassing people that are desperate. I don't like seeing those type of videos, and thankfully none of the that we're talking about now have done that. Adine has never done that, but we have to be careful with that. That piece is
yeah.
Because what happens is these folks are going to see this in documentaries down the line, or where they're going to get re-traumatized. We have to be mindful of you could show a broken tree, you could show a house and whatever, and even that I don't like personally. I like telling stories in a different way, but it's super important that we don't make people poster childs for disaster.
That's true. It's a fine line for that too, because it's like if people don't see, they don't act with the money, and you're battling. Let's be for real. The people that are helping the people in Puerto Rico are the people, not the government. They're not the ones helping. They're trying to take credit. Like even in one of these pueblos, which I'm not going to mention because it's insider information.
Stop naming names.
Even one of these pueblos, the mayor is trying to take credit for something that Mi Patria did. And I'm like, yo, let them take credit. It doesn't matter as long as it gets done. That's all that matters. You know what I'm saying? That the people get it. But at some point, like you said, some of this stuff has to we got to unify. And that's the message, man. We got to stay unified, So thank you guys again for having me, bro. And I'm looking forward to seeing the video you're going to share right now.
All right, cool. Thank you so much, man. Papo.
Yo.
Heavy night, like I said before. Really quick, folks, I wanna share this video from this young lady that I met recently. She's an hermana of Corazones Unidos Siempre, which is Chi Upsilon Sigma. It's a Latina sorority that's super engaged with the community on all levels, building great women. I had the pleasure a couple of years ago of helping my friend Lauren, who's a sister as well, una hermana, and I got an opportunity to actually speak at their biannual conference and share my grandmother's immigration emigration story with them. And I was so nervous because this was like dead smack in the middle of like Me Too, right? And a Latina sorority was trusting me to deliver a keynote address at their biannual conference. So every 2 years they get together, and they entrusted me to deliver a message to them. And it was one of the most amazing experiences, the most scariest of all, because I knew there was a couple of sisters looking at me side eye, wondering why a woman wasn't there telling a story. And it was just a great experience. And as a result of that event, the same sisters that were mad because I was there actually had provided me other opportunities down the line. So I won them over with that. But this organization is super amazing. And I want to share the video. I'm just trying to find it here. I'm sorry. Here we go. So this is I'm gonna actually take us off screen, Papo, to show this because I want people to focus on the video. It's a vertical video. So let me just
Hola, mi gente. My name is Bianca, and today I went to Utuado, Puerto Rico. This specific part of town is called Las Parcelas Pons, also commonly known for a tourist attraction called Cañón Blanco. As you can see from this reel, the road to get in and out of this part of town has been completely destroyed by Hurricane Fiona, meaning people in this community have little to no access and leaving their homes. We had to unload our truck on the other side because no cars can get through. We each took items one by one and crossed the river by foot in 90-degree weather. I share these details because it's important to understand that additionally to having limited access of transport, this community still doesn't have power and cell service is barely to none. It has been one whole week since the hurricane hit Puerto Rico. Why is it that we're the first people to bring items such as flashlights, first aid kits, non-perishable items? Yep, you heard right, the first. That's unacceptable. I hope you can share this reel and tag someone that should see it. Please read my caption for more details on how you can help. Mil gracias.
So I wanna to kind of bring my point to fruition, Papo. You saw how that video was made. It showed what the issue was, but it didn't show people's faces. It didn't show people crying. It didn't show people desperate, starving or in roofless houses or whatever. She showed something from a very dignified point of view. And that's one of the things that grabbed me. Her name on Instagram, so is the Latina Traveler, is her name on Instagram. So follow her. But I want to share her flyer. Hold on one second. Hold on one second here. So many files here. This is like the most files I ever had on any program that we've ever done. So just so I want to share this. In Puerto Rico, el pueblo se salva. So the reason why I'm making a distinction, let me just take the banners off of this so you can see the whole flyer. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because there are a lot of good people. We've mentioned a lot of them today. There's Tato Torres, there's Monse Torres, which is his brother. There's Viajero, there's Crazy Legs, there's Brooklyn Storm, Nicole. There's so many people that are really making a difference, and they're not nonprofits. They're not organizations with annual reports and things like that, but they're doing the work. And this young lady joins the ranks of those people, and I want to support her. I want you to know who she is. This Latina Travels is one of her accounts. She has PayPal, Zelle, and Venmo. I really appreciate what she's doing. I'm gonna stay connected with her and continue to share her work because I think that there's a lot of value in these individuals that do this kind of work. Yeah, man, I need to drink a hot tea and coat my throat because I'm not gonna talk for like the next 3 days. I want you to know this.
You've been on the phone for about a week straight, bro.
It's insane. And then traveling in the middle of that because I was back and forth between Miami and LA. Thank you, folks, for being here tonight. There's a core group of you that stuck with us the whole night, and hopefully this experience was educational. I hope it's everything that we promised it would be, and we did it with a very short window of time. Thank you to my team for helping, and I do want to acknowledge a bunch of people. I want to thank Capicu Culture, Papo, Siembra Academy, my students who actually shared this information out, Erasma from Tambora Dialogues, my partners, Michelle and Christy from Talento Unlimited, based out of Miami. I want to thank the Office of the New York City Public Advocate, Jumani D. Williams, for co-presenting this tonight and hopefully helping us with a future event. I also want to thank Lala Diaz, Jamala, Babylonia Gaskin, Don Bochinche, Reiko Yaso, Puerto Rican Flags Up, Dr. Melinda Gonzalez, Nancy Ruffin, Carmen Bonilla, Rebecca Gitana, Bianca Alba, who's the young lady you just met now, Dean Huertas, Jennifer Cifuentes, Laila Mejia, Nidis, and everybody else who spoke, because there's a whole list of people that I didn't have on the sheet that came in tonight last minute, and there were also people who wasn't able to be here. I need to know a couple of things from you, and this, you could DM me, you could talk to me, however, talk to Papo, talk to Lala. Let us know if you think that this is necessary. Should we do this again? But for that to happen, we need to prove that this had impact. So we need you to share it. We need you to share this. We're going to create some clips from this, some very pivotal moments. Me and Papa will go over it and figure out what moments really need to be shared in a smaller format, so that people could really understand what we're trying to do here, and then maybe be inspired to watch the whole broadcast. We're going to share a video with just a recap and the barcodes, so that people could see exactly what it is we're doing. To all the organizations out there doing the work, we want you to know that you're not alone. The diaspora is here. We're here. And it's not just the diaspora, it's our allies, it's other people as well. We're here for you. And then we're going to continue to figure out what we could do to make this more effective, to make this streamlined, to make it impactful, and all the things, right? Papa, before we go into the video, any closing statements?
I just, in the spirit of thanking, right, being thankful, I want to thank all of you giving weight to the lived experience of people, of those that survive, of those that organize, of those that do life-saving work without the spotlight. We see you. All right. That's all I want to be thankful for your work, because I know what it is to just be background and, not want to be on these screens. Elevación.
Thank you so much, folks. Here's the video by Rebecca Gitana. This is a video that she compiled experiencing the Puerto Rican Day Parade and her immense sense of pride. Enjoy it, share it. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Qué bonita bandera. Hello, everyone. This is your sister, Rebecca Gitana Torres. You know I gotta rule the Mars. And many of you may know me not just from my work in the world, you should check that out, but also from being live at the parade for many, many years. I love the Puerto Rican Day Parade because it is a beautiful devotional expression of who we are. And even though we're not at the parade this year or at one of our festivals or celebrations, this is still a powerful time for us to reflect on who we are as a people and where we want to go. So today, we're going to be presente in spirit. But first, here's a look at the past.
And just like that, the parade has begun.
ever a year that it was okay to skip a Puerto Rican Day parade, I think this year would probably be it. And I say that because last summer, those unprecedented protests that went on for 15 days, both on the islands and in New York and other cities as well. It was incredible how we marched with our flags, with our art, with our dance, with our vibrant spirit. We paraded for 15 days. It was epic.
Black Lives Matter!
Despierta, borinqueño, que han dado la señal.
This year, mi gente, I have a really special treat for us because we're not just going to imagine the island from Fifth Avenue, we're actually gonna go there. And since we're there, let's have a little meditation. Welcome to your 1-minute Boricua meditation. Feast your eyes on the island, taking beautiful breaths in through your nose and out of your mouth. Soaking in the colors and the sounds. Deepening your breath, filling up on our island's medicine. Taking a final deep breath in and let it go. Didn't that feel so good? One of our greatest treasures as a people are our elders. Their knowledge runs so deep, from plant medicine to understanding the cycles to being a witness to powerful historical moments. I urge all of us to tap into our elders today.
No puede ser que hasta aquí me hayan traído y yo tan bobo no me he dado cuenta antes de que no era como yo había soñado.
Eso es asumir.
La vida es una ilusión.
Wow, so you was here with Martin Luther King.
I was there y yo me reuní con los Black Panthers to do work together.
And what happened when I told Maria that her family wanted her to come back to New York?
You tell her that your mother cannot abandon her house at this point because I am a warrior and I'm not about to leave my life, my home, because I'm afraid. I'm not afraid. And especially today, you guys came to see me and I felt so blessed and so wonderful. Y como pueden ver, hay derrumbes donde quiera, pero no, el corazón mío no se ha derrumbado.
Speaking of the great wonders of Borinquen, let's travel to some of our natural wonders. La Cueva del Indio is located in Arecibo, Puerto Rico. And I'm going to take you down into the cave to see some of the petroglyphs created by our Taino ancestors. Our cave systems are incredible, and you can just feel the energy of the womb of our islands. I really urge you to visit a cueva on your next trip back home. Another incredible wonder is something that I can guarantee you have never seen before, or probably never even heard of before. That looks like a face.
Uh-huh. Yes. Big nose.
Look at that.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God. How incredible is that? Right? The great wonders of our island. I also want to highlight that many of our sacred sites are being torn up for new construction. Our ancestral remains discarded, and our relics being sold and spread across the globe. We don't really have the time to go all the way into that here, pero ya tú sabes. Borinquen! I just want to send all of you the awareness that you are needed in this movement. I want to send all of you the awareness that you have a birthright to the island. Stay powerful, keep rising, and I'll see you next time.